Hello and welcome to the SuperShow podcast. I'm your host, Alex Jones, and this week, again, I am joined by the awesome Jamie and Chris. How are you doing, fellas?
You know what? I'm so good because I am not hosting. So thank you, Alex Jones.
No problem. Jamie throwing up the front double bicep. Thank you very much for that.
You've got to show people what we're working with, you know? If we're not here to flex, then what are we here to do?
Wow.
Talk about video games, I guess.
Look at those chicken wings.
That is an absolutely great point. And what a great point, what a great time to remind our audience that if you are listening to us on one of the major podcasting platforms in our audio format, you can also check us out on YouTube where we are in glorious video. We are on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and lots of other major podcasting platforms and minor ones as well. So you can hit us up there if you're currently watching us on YouTube on video. So, you know, you can mix it up. You can get us in multiple formats. But not only that, boys, because we are also available on Paisley Radio every Thursday at 10 p.m. and it repeats on Monday. We had a comment suggesting that we are not internet radio superstars, we are gigastars. So thank you very much for that commenter who said that. I like that very much. The gigastar. But we are a gaming podcast. We talk about gaming news. Was kind of not other crap as well.
When there's news to talk about, yeah.
Especially today, I think we're going to push that fucking boundary, aren't we?
Today is going to be rough. Just in case you haven't been paying any attention to the news, there isn't any out there, so you haven't missed much.
There's one big one, but you know.
There is one big one, but we've managed to ring the sponge. I don't know to try and get as many juicy drips out as we can from any stories that we found that weren't the big one. I am, of course, referring to the Activision-Blizzard story, which has been simmering and away for the last few weeks, which we weren't sure if we actually wanted to talk about, to touch on. It's you know, we like to have a laugh, make jokes. I'm not so sure we can do that with that, but hey, we're going to have a go.
We're going to try, damn it.
We're going to try. We're going to see what happens. I should mention that we are on Patreon, patreon.com at SuperShow, are we? On Patreon? I guess we are.
What do you mean? Do you not know how the internet works?
He thinks
it's like Patreon. TikTok, where it's like /@
Yeah, I thought it wasn't, but is it not that on Patreon?
No,
there's a link.
It's literally in this document that you are looking at, you scumbag. It's patreon.com/SuperShow.
Where is it I can't even see it.
Let me highlight it for you, you dingus. Oh my God. Hold on.
Chris is just showing me where the actual thing is. We've already done. Oh, it's there. See, it's below my fold. I can't see it. That's why. Patreon.com/SuperShow. So head over there to check out some of our Patreon exclusive content if you're over a $5 tier. And there will be something brand new on there because we recorded our first episode of Known Murderer. So that will be up this weekend, most likely Sunday evening. So if you'd like to check that out, make sure you're signed up. There's also some, what have we even done? We did a spoiler cast.
Yeah, spoiler cast. After Darks.
Full frontals. There's a range of different content on there you can check out. There's also some preview stuff for a show that never went live on our old channel.
Yeah, from the old ATG days.
If you want to watch Jamie jump up and down and rap, then get yourself over there.
Hell yeah. Don't. Yes, do it. No. I mean, I might just release it to the public at this stage because that's a fun time right there.
I might leave the podcast, so, you know, we all have choices.
Fellas, I also have some more kind of like some non-six list related ATG stuff that I was thinking maybe I could put up as like a from the vault of, you know, like from the vaults of yesteryear.
Do you have any of the vlogs?
Yeah, just as long as we don't get sued, then.
Yeah, I've got the vlogs.
I reckon we've got a couple of vlogs would be decent.
I got the vlogs, baby. I got the vlog where you're taking a shit on the toilet, Jamie.
Well, that was every vlog, I think, by the end of it. Do you have any of the, what are they called? What are the documentaries called? The documentaries, listen to me. You know, the video essays.
Game Changers.
Game Changers.
I was
thinking it's got to be something generic, like gaming related, like 1UP. New Life, New Game Plus.
New Game Plus.
What did we call that thing?
I think I have one or two of them, but I will try and get my hands on more.
Okay, cool. That's all right.
Yeah, but that's...
There you go.
It's weird trying to talk to potential employers about a huge chunk of your life and having nothing to show about it. That's what I've learned.
Isn't it? It's fun, isn't it? Yeah.
That's why I was wondering why Chris had such a curious 2020, and then I realised it's like being a criminal. Being like,
Man, yeah,
what's
exactly.
this gap in your CV?
Yeah. Oh, so you had a channel with almost 500,000 subscribers. Really? Doesn't look like it. Oh, you had over 600 videos. Nope, says 0 right here. So go fuck yourself.
Do you know what is? Do you know what's funny is I remember one point interviewing somebody for a role who didn't get the role, but interviewed them, and they said that they had a channel like when they were younger, and it had done really well, and they'd got like I don't know, maybe I guess it was like 50,000 subs, and I was like, oh, that's amazing, all by yourself. Like, can I see a link to whatever? And they went, no, I deleted it.
Oh no, that person worked for us, dude.
Yeah, I was pretending they didn't.
Fuck it. You just throw
like,
everyone under the bus. I don't give a shit. I'm fucking in that mood.
But at the time, I was like, "That what a load of rubbish." If you had that, there's no way that it would just get deleted. But turns out that does happen. So, in the afterlife, I doubt his find that person.
I doubt his went his way for the same reason ours went our way.
Hey, we haven't. But it's what I'm saying is it's absolutely possible, and I should have given him a fair crack by believing him, but I didn't.
What would you guys say if we had a benefactor who's like, create ATG 2.0 and I'll bankroll it? What would you get into it? But the caveat is, no, you have to do fucking 6 lists again. Because I know, like, towards the end of ATG, we got so tired of 6 lists.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. I'd want to do more of a personality thing where we get to do more cool stuff. I'd definitely do ATG 2.0 with you guys, but I wouldn't want to be doing just.
Not to say that it would only be 6 lists, like it would be spread up, but it would be like, but you have to do 6 lists because that's like the ATG staple, you know.
Oh yeah, I'd do that if it was just a small part. Then we could just hire some small people.
Guys, I'm just trying to plant some seeds to any potential like Elon Musk listeners.
Yeah,
okay.
I got that.
We're D2F if you want to make ATG 2.0.
But it will be called the Super Show.
Oh,
anyway,
no. Scrap it.
Scrap it altogether. We should abandon that idea altogether. Speaking of abandoning,
that doesn't count. That doesn't count. You can't create your own segues.
I was just trying to move on. I wasn't even trying to create a proper one. But hey, it worked a little bit. Even if I didn't create my own one. So I've got to trick you into saying it.
It works. Go for it.
It was fun.
Imagine if you. No, I'm not even going to go there. Never mind.
And the reason I mention abandoning is, of course, because Abandon's PlayStation 5 app went live this past week. The hotly anticipated real-time trailer app from Blue Box Games. The only reason it's anticipated is because people, Chris being one of them, and Jamie, I would say maybe as one of them, are convinced that it is linked to Kojima and Kojima Productions and maybe Silent Hill in a big, big way. But yes, the app went live. It's currently got no content on it. There are no trailers to see. But it's quite an interesting prospect. I didn't really appreciate it, boys, up until recently, because I was kind of like, what's the point in an app that has trailers? But the actual thing I found out today when I installed the app is that it utilizes the PlayStation 5's hardware to show you how the game will look on the hardware running in real time, which is actually a pretty cool little thing to sort of show off a game and how it's actually going to run and how it's actually going to look. No content yet, though. So, you know.
Hey.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We don't really know much. But this week has also been a little bit interesting from Blue Box because they've been up to their shenanigans again, posting a mysterious tweet with a blurred out eye-patched person, which is obviously alluding to Metal Gear, once again trying to pull themselves back into the Kojima universe. Just to sort of try and make those links seem as though they might exist.
By the way, their pinned tweet on their channel is when they put out that statement saying, "We are in no way affiliated with Kojima Productions or Silent Hills. Leave us the fuck alone, you fucking nerds." Not like that, but you get the sense.
I mean,
it's their pinned tweet still, and they're still playing this fucking game. And that is why I made a bet with Jamie, and I said, Jamie, it's fucking Kojima. And I will put money on it, and we'll go betting. Well,
I tried to raise the stakes a little bit to see if your money really would go with you about it. Well, I offered him terms.
How much did you say?
I believe it was $3,000.
£3,000, £3,000.
Yeah. But I said you could pay it back in installments.
Yeah, I said I don't even have £3,000 to my name, so I offered him a wristy, and he said, "I'll tell you, I'll take £5." So. I don't know how to feel about that. You don't think I got good wrist technique, but fine.
Sorry, Chris. This isn't Blizzard. You can't get ahead in life by tossing. I'm joking.
Ed, you've killed me. Oh my god.
Wasn't supposed. Sorry, I'm not.
Don't jump the gun.
I'm not going to jump the gun. That's an important story. That was you know what? The joke quota's been filled, and I'm sorry. We're moving on.
The one joke you're allowed.
Yeah, and we did it before we even got to that segment.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm happy to take that bet because look, we'll get into the ins and outs of it. But I think you kind of said it yourself there, Chris, which is that like they're playing the game. They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like if you were in that position that company was in with that product, and you were getting that kind of attention by doing a certain kind of thing, you'd probably just keep doing it. You keep poking that bear, like because you're getting it's like my mum
I
always said about
100%
bullies.
agree. I 100% agree. And if I was in their position, I'd do exactly the same fucking thing. But having said that, I'm telling you now, it's fucking Kojima, and you're a fool to think otherwise.
Which of the things that came out this week? So because it seemed like the PS5 app going live kind of brought them out of hiding a little bit, and every single announcement they make seems to confuse people in some way. But what sealed the deal for you?
I mean,
or is it called cumulative?
Oh, yeah, it's a cumulative. Like, it was sealed. I mean, it's on record on past podcast where I've 100% said it's fucking Kojima. I think I made the thumbnail where it was Kojima with the fucking swirly shit in the background. Yeah. Like, in that episode, I was like, it's fucking Kojima, fellas. Like, you idiots think otherwise. But
that's a strong word.
Idiots, imbeciles, even buffoons.
Morons.
Some might say
you're cretins.
No, hold on. Now you've gone too far. You've gone too far, Jamie. Just calm down. Just pull it back, fella. Okay. Rein it in. All right. No, I don't know. Like it's an accumulation. I think there are. I think it hinges on this app, right? And a question of saying like, why would this indie developer have this access to this app or this new thing of trying to say, hey, it's trailer? Because part of their thing that they were announcing is, hey, it'll play the trailer for the game and future trailers to come. How many fucking future trailers are there going to be for some fucking indie game?
Well,
right? And then think about how many fucking trailers we got for Death Stranding, where people were just fucking pouring over it and kind of thinking. Plus, they said, oh, they'll have original trailers in there, blah, blah, blah. And then they put in brackets OT. Like PT was a play.
Right, yeah.
Sorry, OT, original teaser, I think they said. And then it's like, PT was playable teaser. And it's just kind of like, yes.
But they're playing this. They are playing this. They're playing this game
100%.
And I think it's a dangerous game. I think it's going to blow up in their faces. I don't think because the problem they've got is if they play this game and not their game Abandoned, if they play this media game, and they drop a really good indie game that is. Has got a lot going for it, is scary and thrilling and whatever, then I think they would get away with it. But because we've now done a silly amount of research into the company, into the past, into what they've been doing, into everything they've done up to this point, and I don't think you're going to get that. I think you're going to get like a mediocre indie game, this one-trick pony like of a lot of indie games are, that they're going to milk the PR for because that's what they need to do, or that what they think they need to do, and they think the best way to milk the PR is this whole Kojima angle. But the problem is if it comes out and the game isn't that good, it's going to annoy a lot of people. And I don't think that's a good start to a studio releasing games. Like it's because where do you go from there? Like you release a crappy game, people get annoyed with you, and then when your next one comes out, they're going to it's just a bunch of fraudsters. Like,
oh, but Jonesy, what if you know you've got a shit game, and the only way that you can, and it's like it's all fucking, it's a house built on fucking broken foundations, and the house is fucking rickety and it's going to fall down any second now, and you know that you are never going to make another fucking game in your life because as soon as this goes through, because you got some commitments from some like investors or whatever, you know that afterwards you're fucking walking away. Wouldn't you do like the best you could to kind of get as many people to kind of cover that for you?
No, because I don't think this is going to be shit in the sense of I don't think he's going to Hassan, your boy, is going to phone it in. I think he's going to try and make a decent indie game, but I think a lot
Hassan
of indie games.
Karaman is not making anything except for fucking little Twitter post videos where it looks like he's half
Chris,
on the verge
those
of tears.
They were
deep
faked.
Come
on, get with the program.
Yeah. I will say one thing. There is one little tidbit which Jamie kind of brought up that makes me think it might not be Kojima, but like makes me falter by like maybe 5%, and that's about it. It's fucking Kojima, boys.
Right. What was the tidbit that makes you falter?
Go on.
The bit of you saying it might be another company trying to do kind of like Kojima-esque.
Yeah, there's a Russian games journalist who's doing the rounds, basically saying that he actually believes that this is a Metal Gear Solid product, which again, like, would the eye patch dude be too on the nose a reference to the Metal Gear franchise? Like, I think probably. Even like you blur a face with an eye patch, it's got an eye patch, like, and eye patch.
Yeah.
Somebody made did you, on the Twitter though, on the tweet, sorry, that they had the picture with the eye patch in the background. Someone then actually posted the stock image that it looks like it is the image that was
Hassan again, pinch of salt because it's Hassan himself, but Hassan has debunked that and said that that's not the. Someone found the asset that they claimed that they were using, like a $30 asset that you could just buy.
Yeah, it looked pretty close.
It's close, but Hassan says it's not. And if you line them up over the top of each other, there are differences that you could tweak. You could tweak one to make it look like the other. But then it's like a thing of like, why would Hassan promote a game? He's also come out on record and said that the person that's blurred out is a character from the game and is one of the villain characters. Like, if that was the I mean, who knows? This could all sound so stupid and however.
Fall down the fucking rabbit hole. Come on.
Well, I was going to say that because if it was, so what I was thinking was they just didn't have a decent asset the high res one that they wanted to use for that post, so they just decided to use one that was very similar, which I would say is completely fair enough. Like in a game, if you wanted to do that, but the problem is, and someone did point this out, is like if you're the sort of company that's going to go buy a $30 asset, that's not a Kojima. Because you wouldn't need to do that, because in the background you would have Kojima Productions and all this other stuff where they could knock you up anything you want.
Unless Kojima gave them $30 and said, that's your budget.
Well, absolutely,
or,
maybe.
Like the second half of the Russian journalist's idea, which is that not only is this a Metal Gear thing, but this is all happening because it's Konami trying to essentially weaponize a Kojima-style marketing sort of plan.
Yeah. Which adds credence to them saying that they're not affiliated with Kojima Productions, which is like, okay,
or Silent Hill, which is like, okay, if you're making a Metal Gear game for Konami, then both those things are true. Or worse yet, if like Blue Box and Hassan and Abandoned are all like not fictionalized, but are all essentially like fucking just vacuums that exist to market another game being developed somewhere else. Like, what if they're all just hollow?
What if it's actually a Peter Molyneux game?
I mean, bring back the king as far as I'm concerned.
I was going to say, what if there is no game and this is all the lead up to a new series of Black Mirror, and the Abandoned app is actually going to play Black Mirror, and this has all been a big thing about, like ARGs and manipulating audiences.
So you're saying the person with the eye patch is Charlie Brooker. I get it. I'd actually fucking love that. I think that would be very clever. But are we the ones that are abandoned?
Was it? Oh. No, it's a game called Abandoned by an indie dev that's gonna be mediocre.
No. Abandoned. Chris is right. Peter Molyneux is making the game, and Abandoned refers to the winner of the What's Inside the Cube app because he wasn't given the rewards he was meant to get.
Wow. No, I'd rather than Peter Molyneux that it was what's his name? Is it Paul Fish? The Fez
Phil
guy.
Fish.
Phil Fish. I'd rather it was Phil Fish, and he's now got long hair and an eye patch.
So you're saying this is the resurrection of Fez 2, where now it's photorealistic, and the Fez character has now got an eye patch.
And the big bad is Phil Fish. That would be amazing. There's a couple of other little bits to touch on with this. So Hassan Karaman went on a podcast, Al Hub.
He hasn't been on it yet. He hasn't been.
Well, no, he has been on. Well, I saw some pictures that look like he'd done the recording. I don't know. I don't think it's been released, but there was if you go onto Al Hub's Twitter, they had like it looked like they'd done unless it was just a pre-interview thing.
So Al Hub, is that a hub for people called Alfred?
Exactly
yes.
that, yes.
Yeah. Alan's, Alfred's, yeah, absolutely. They're approaching their 100th episode, and they're sponsored by a number of different companies.
Sorry, I'd love it if it was just like a fork of Pornhub, but you could only access it if your name was Al.
Can I access it?
Actually, Alex, people call you Al, don't they?
People call me Al.
Yeah.
Al Hub. What about if only the people on it are called Al?
Ugh.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
It's just the other Alex Jones. It's his site. It's just him naked with body paint, painting himself like the Twitch girls do.
And gay frogs. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he was like, but Hassan Karaman, let's get back to that, is going on / has been on Our Hub's podcast. They're approaching their 100th episode, but they announced sort of a bunch of sponsorships and some giveaways. Two of the companies that are involved in that are Bloober Team and Konami, which has obviously got people talking again because of the connections there, which I think this is all too much. Like, I think the problem is here, people are reading too much into this shit. But there's one more thing that's happened this week, because Norman Reedus, the motorbike riding, beer swilling actor, as whatever he is.
Sorry, monster swilling.
Monster chugger.
Yeah.
Sorry, Monster. He posted an Instagram video where he was kind of dancing around with a bunny from Silent Hill 3. It was would give you an epileptic fit. Well, I can't even say that if you had photosensitive epilepsy. So maybe don't watch it if you've got that. But if you haven't, check it out. It's very strange.
You see, he's just fucking stroking the fire as well.
But the thing is,
stoking.
Not stroking. That's something different.
Norman Reedus, like, clearly, nearly worked with Hideo on Silent Hills at the time, and then did work with him on Death Stranding many years ago now. Is Norman Reedus, like, aware of all of this enough that he would time an Instagram post of him with a character from some random horror game from over a decade? Like, it doesn't match up. Like, what? I don't know what that's about.
That is weird. I'll give you that.
The thing that doesn't match up for me is, even though I'm saying it's fucking Kojima, is that everyone's saying it's a Silent Hill project, which I'm not necessarily behind that kind of thinking, right? But everyone's like, oh, Silent Hill, Silent Hill, Silent Hill. But we know Konami will never work with Kojima ever again.
We don't. Well, we don't know. We think that's the case.
From what we've seen, from all of the shit that's gone down, I don't think either party wants to work with the other ever again.
But then, to be fair, like, the Kojima thing could just all be, that could be the red herring, and it could, like we've said, it could just be Konami and could be Silent Hills, and if
you
that's
know what,
more
if,
likely.
If it is, and this is why I'm so like happy to kind of put some money on the line, because it's not a lot of money. First of all, £5, but it's just a bit of fun. But like whatever the answer is, it's still fascinating. Like, no, I'll tell you what.
Hang on.
What I really want the answer to be is, I really want it to be Konami trolling the way Kojima does shit. I would fucking, I'd stand up and applaud them, because Konami have not done much with anything except for fucking eFootball.
True. Also, Chris, you've got it twisted, because if this is somehow Konami or Kojima or Silent Hill or Metal Gear related, then I get that game and I lose £5, but it's fine. If it's not, then I gain £5. You're in a position where you can lose both. It could be nothing and you lose £5. So you're the only person that can lose.
Yeah, but I don't care, because it's not lose-lose, because I'm enjoying it.
You said that's why I'm okay to make the bet.
Yeah, because whatever the outcome, I'm enjoying the ride, buddy.
No. That's like saying I'm going to bet on my favourite football team winning, because either way no. If they lose, then it's lose-lose.
Well,
that's why you always bet against the team you like, because you can be happy either way.
Do you know what I did? That's like that. I bet that.
You're fucking.
The UK would vote to leave the EU. I won like 50 quid.
Yeah,
scumbag.
So we went to the pub. Everyone was a bit solemn and sad, because we work in a little lefty, wokey media company. And I bought people drinks, because I said, I've won 50 quid. I'll buy a couple of drinks.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I personally, I don't mind that they're playing the game. I think it's a good laugh. I think some people are going to be oversensitive about it, because that always happens with games and the internet, and especially the potent combination of the two. But I also just think that, like, will it blow up in their face? Maybe in the short term, like if they release something that's really bad, or they find a way to not release anything at all, which I still think is a distinct possibility, that this is just like them endlessly stringing people along.
Do you think it's just vaporware? But what's the point?
Yeah. The point is, do you know Hassan cameraman's name?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Yeah.
But hold on, because if it is vaporware, it doesn't matter if I know his name or not.
Yeah, but then I think the other weird thing about the games industry,
names can be forgotten quick.
The names can be forgotten, but the thing about names can be forgotten, reputations can be changed, I guess. Like, I think the games industry, for as much as we'd like to believe we hold grudges, sometimes that in the games industry, you're only as relevant as the reception your last game received. And like, let's take Hello Games and No Man's Sky, for example, right? Let's say they never release an update for No Man's Sky. Then they go back to the drawing board, they release another game. They release that game, and like, it is a very, very good game. I don't know how you say that, like what metric you use to say that it's like objectively a good game, but let's just say for the sake of argument, it's objectively a good game. You kind of made something that still people feel like they need to play. And most sane people who don't hold grudges or care about like what happened in the past, like they just play it. And there are going to be some people who are like, sorry, I can't play it because I said I'd never touch a Hello Games product again. But that's going to be like a 9.8 on Metacritic that they're just never going to touch because they didn't like some old game once. Like I don't think that many people think that way in the game that are fans of games. I think they just follow what happens. I think that's why reputations change.
Yeah,
I think you nailed it before the podcast, Jamie, when I pointed out that Hassan Karaman's only got about 9,000 followers on Twitter. And I was like, oh, I'm amazed he doesn't have 100,000 followers. And you were like, that's because the bubble we're in where you think this is interesting to people is not as big as we think it is.
Yeah, we had it all the time with Cyberpunk, where like the number of people who bought Cyberpunk was much bigger than we thought it was. The number of people who returned Cyberpunk was much smaller than we thought it was. These things happen all the time, and like, no, CD Projekt Red could work on Cyberpunk for the next 20 years, or they could abandon it this year in favor of the next Witcher. But if the next Witcher comes out and it is well received, people go and buy that Witcher game. That's a guarantee.
Yeah, but then again, you're talking about CD Projekt Red with a track record and a history, and then you're also talking about Hassan Karaman, who's done
but again,
all.
I still stand by the thing, which is that you're only as relevant as your last actual product. And if Hassan Karaman is let's say abandoned as vaporware, but the next project is real and it's good, you play it. I play it. Why would I not?
That's true.
Yeah, because why would an
I
investor
sit here with folded arms, sitting to you guys talking about the game of the year, and say, I'm sorry, I'm not buying it because of that vaporware release.
I think the only interesting wrinkle to your argument, I think in the case of like an indie dev or a new studio or whatever, is a lot of what they do is obviously based on funding. And if you're a bigger studio who if you mess up and if you release a game which doesn't hit that well, chances are you can still get funding. So Cyberpunk will still be able to get funding in the future, despite the fact there have been lawsuits and there have been other things that have gone on. Like they can make money, they can produce good games. I think the issue here is if you are a proven falsifier of PR campaigns or whatever, and you release a game which is vaporware, or you don't release a game or whatever, trying to get funding for your next project is almost going to be impossible.
You know what happens? You don't go out as a fucking someone else. You don't go out and hire the Hassan Karamans of the world. You go out and hire his social manager because he did a fucking bang-up job. Not Hassan.
Yeah. No, you're right.
I mean, you hire the person who stuck the camera in front of his face and said, pretend you're crying.
Yeah.
They, to be fair, no matter what happens, they need to be given a job like at a big company because we all love an ARG.
Oh,
and
bro,
we
get them to join the team that's promoting the next Cloverfield film, and we'll be
it'll
be in business.
Oh, can you imagine? This is a J.J. Abrams game.
This is the new Cloverfield film. It's like just.
Oh man, that would be great. I really hope that something interesting happens. I don't think it will. So okay, just in case people missed it, let me just spell it out. So this time I'm going to be the adjudicator. Jamie is saying that this is not Kojima related. $5 or £5, on the line. Chris is saying it is Kojima who's got this going on.
No,
but to be fair,
I'm saying it's fucking Kojima. That is how I'm saying it. You got to fucking remember that, right?
Sorry, it's fucking Kojima.
It's fucking Kojima.
Also, to give Chris his dues, Jamie did say that Chris can lose in this situation, but he can also win-win because he can get the game and the money. Yes. So he's going all in. He's win-win or lose-lose. Jamie is win-lose no matter what happens.
Yeah, you know what Jamie's doing?
I'm the fence sitter.
Jamie's the scumbag who on roulette puts money on black and red.
You lose.
You lose, and if you do that, you lose.
Yeah, you just lose.
You do still have a chance.
You think you're splitting it, but you're losing. All right. Whereas me, I'm all in on number 7, baby. You know.
I've lost in the month of July over £100 on roulette. So this is an appropriate reminder.
You've been doing the Gambo on Twitch.
No, in person. I don't know if I ever said it, but I watched all of England's all of England's run-ins from post-group stage up to finals in a casino. So, which is a dangerous mix because you get very excited when you're watching your national team winning football matches, and turns out casinos are a bad place to be both excited and drunk. Especially casinos that are 24 hours, obviously bright lights the whole time, no clocks, food and drink being brought to just wherever you end up being sat. So
Do you know what? You can have a great. I've only been to a casino twice. Yeah, I had a great time. Like because you can take. You obviously have to spend cash, but you can spend like 50 quid or whatever. As long as you don't go crazy and rinse it all immediately.
Yeah.
You win a few, you lose a few. Don't get me wrong, you absolutely lose all of it by the end of the night, but you have
the house always wins, baby.
Time. House always wins. But listen, we can't talk about Abandoned all night, guys, because we need to move on to the comment of the week. And this one comes in from Ghost Viking, who said, "Remember Rainbow Six Patriots? That's what Tom Clancy games should look like. The dark story, tactical single player, not that woke looking bullshit." Of course, referring to, what is it even called?
X-Defiant.
X-Defiant that we were talking about last week.
X-Disaster, more like.
Now,
all right, copying your own thumbnails.
I love people getting salty online. I'm not really sure what's woke about X-Defiant. I mean, punk and the idea that punk and woke are synonymous is kind of great to me, because obviously that should probably be like the opposite. But
no, but Jonesy, there were females in that trailer.
So. Also, it's a well-known fact that only lefty snowflakes like bright colours. Everyone else likes dark colours. Okay.
Tom Clancy, famous for only wearing black and brown.
Yeah, I must be honest. As much as I didn't like fucking whatever they showed on X-Defiant, I wouldn't necessarily call it woke, but
I don't see how it could be woke. What was woke about it?
I don't really know what was woke. If I'm being honest, I'm not in the traditional meaning of the word. I mean, I don't know what was. It didn't seem to be politically charged. They were all fictional groups, you know.
Although I'm sure they'll shoehorn it in now.
Famously, the woke and the left are, pretty synonymous. Not big fans of guns generally, so might not be the biggest Tom Clancy run around shooty bang games.
Even things like graffiti and general punk sort of anarchism are all traditionally sort of like right leaning ideas, right? So,
no, I don't. Punk isn't like anarchism.
Well, I guess it depends what what the anarchy's against and what kind of.
Rage Against the Machine, mate.
That's not
System of a Down.
Well, no, that again, that's not very right at all. That's incredibly left. But yeah.
Anyway, let's move on.
Naming bands now. But yeah, Rainbow Six Patriots.
I think what we really need to find out is whether or not the fictional characters within X-Defiant, deny that the Armenian genocide ever took place.
Jesus
that's what we need to get to the bottom of.
Let's just hope that Google doesn't scan the transcript of this video, because we'll be in trouble. But yeah, fucking going back to Rainbow Six Patriots, that looked fucking great, didn't it? But that kind of...
I cannot remember it at all, I'm going to be completely honest.
It was really cool. It was a more traditional Rainbow Six game rather than, say, the multiplayer Rainbow Six Siege that we got.
Yes.
And it did look really cool. He's right. It was kind of dark. Did seem to have a very dark story. Wouldn't necessarily say that it did look tactical, but you could imagine being a Rainbow Six game pre-Siege that was synonymous with tactical gameplay. So you could imagine that. It had a really cool like intro trailer where it was like this woman at home and whatever, and there was like a home invasion, and they strapped a bomb to the dude's chest or whatever, and then shoved him in a van, took him downtown, and let him loose.
It's fascinating, Chris, because you and I both remembered the same trailer, but each of us remembered different halves of it.
Yeah.
Where you remembered the first half and I remembered the second half.
Yeah, I remember the cinematic. You remember the gameplay example.
Yeah, which I called it gameplay. If I'm going to say up front now, if anyone wants to see an example of what it looks like when you fake gameplay by making a CG trailer and try to pretend it's gameplay after the fact by adding like HUD elements and fucking crosshairs and stuff like that, please watch that trailer. Because the second half of that is an absolute masterpiece in how to make not a video game trailer.
But it's almost interesting, isn't it? Because it's almost like a precursor to the stuff that Ubisoft did afterwards, where like when they showed off The Division and they were like, they had that fake like team gameplay with the fucking broken promise of someone playing on an iPad or a drone.
So good.
Watch Dogs was another one that had a incredibly I'm not going to say like falsified, but like a very
staged.
And even Rainbow Six Siege itself was very different in its first reveal to the final product.
You know what was really interesting? Like, I remember for ATG we were doing some kind of a video. I don't remember what it was, and I was watching this Rainbow Six Patriots reveal, and I was so struck by the fact that there's a little segment on the like gameplay quote unquote reveal,
Yeah.
where they rappel down the fucking balustrades, what do you call it, or whatever it is,
On
of
a bridge.
of a bridge, and they rappel down to like a traffic jam on the bridge, and they're going to go after some terrorists. And in that gameplay, they're walking, and as they're walking, the guy closes a fucking door.
Oh, yes.
Just like they did in The Division. And when we saw it in The Division, we were fucking blown away. We're like, oh, look at your fucking attention to detail. And then I remember watching that trailer for that's whatever video we do for ATG. And I was like, oh my God, they did it for Rainbow Six Patriots as well. They just fucking recycled it. I was like, it's a small fucking thing, but it did actually just blow my mind. I was like, wow, okay.
Who knew people love doors closing that much?
Yeah, it almost kind of makes me think that like, it's that thing, right, where the right thing at the wrong time won't get noticed, but if you repeat it at the right time, all of a sudden it blows up, even though it's exactly the same fucking thing.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
It's like when you're in a crowd, you say a joke, no one laughs. You wait a few minutes, you say the joke again at the right time, and everyone laughs.
Yeah, or worse yet, someone else says it instead.
Oh, scumbag.
Bastard.
Yeah.
Although I've just figured something out. Ghost Viking is in fact a shill for Ubisoft because
Ghost Viking.
You will remember, because Ghost Viking, exactly. Yes. They're not even hiding it very well, of course. Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, Vikings. Ghost, because you don't see them coming, because it's all sneaky. Because Ubisoft got into trouble with Tom Clancy's Elite Squad. They were anti-woke because they had the black fist of the Black Lives Matter thing. And then they got in a lot of trouble because they were saying that they were bad, and so they were the opposite to being woke. And this is someone sliding into our comments saying woke trash in order to make us think
Jonesy.
Ubisoft...
Can I take you on the next level of the fucking Ghost Viking iceberg?
Go on.
Because what is he doing? He's being a Trojan horse. All right? Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
I like it.
Here we go.
I like it.
There
you go.
I've blown it wide open. This fucking conspiracy is going fucking wild. Call the fucking Rainbow Six Patriots, fellas.
I'm not sure if Ghost Viking is, but Ghost Viking, if you are a Patreon, you could always come into our Discord server and you could let us know if you are in fact working for Ubisoft.
I'm worried because when someone complains that something is woke and you say it's not that woke, aren't you then the one that gets accused of being woke? Isn't that how it usually works?
No, you just go broke.
Like, are we the SJW cucks now? Do we have SJW agendas? Help me, I'm getting worried here.
I've got no idea. But hey, I know some people that don't have it.
We need to delete our Last of Us 2 coverage now. Oh shit, that's one. Okay, I'm not.
That's one for the patrons.
No, I was going to say, like, that was actually one news story that kind of I would have been interesting. Maybe we talk about it another week, but it didn't actually become mainstream news, which is why we didn't pick up on it when we were kind of looking around what we were going to talk about this week. But there was a big Last of Us 2 subreddit kind of drama this past week.
Ooh. Oh, please tell me after the fucking patrons, because I do want to hear it, and maybe
we can go into it if you like.
Can I also show you this?
What is that? That's like a slipper you get from a hotel.
I collect these because I find them very useful because I wear them at home. And
are they hotel slippers?
They are actually hotel slippers, and the reason I wear them is because they fucking break after a month, and then you just get a new pair, and it's all nice and shiny.
Where do you guys draw the line in what you're allowed to take from a hotel?
I don't take anything. I take what I put my shit back in my bag and then I leave.
I take everything. No, I just take the slippers because they give them to you, right? Like
they can't reuse them.
Exactly. I take those, and if they have like a nice shampoo or something, I'll take that as well.
Yeah, I got really nervous that I was going to get. Last time I was in a hotel when I was in Poland last year, I was using toothpaste that was very blue. And I'd brushed my teeth, and I don't know what happened, but I went and like wiped my face on this towel, and there was just a huge blue streak across the towel. I was like, that doesn't look like it's coming out. I don't know.
I think that they can't charge you for something like that, but you know.
No, I mean, I'd have been out of the country by the time they tried.
But hold on, did you ever wonder why all the towels in all hotels are white, Jamie?
It's because cum doesn't show up on them.
Kind of. It's because they just bleach the shit out of them.
But hang on, I'd say the majority of towels around the world, if you did a poll of all towels in the top right of this video, just take a look, aren't they white? Aren't towels white?
No, towels are whatever colour you want. Yeah. They usually match your bathroom.
Like, I grew up in a house of white towels.
You lived in a hotel, my friend.
Nah,
I've never lived in a white towel house.
The bath mat that I stood on when I came out the shower, that was white. My big towel to dry myself was white.
Yeah,
we had non-white towels to take to the beach whenever we went to somewhere, or when we were going on holiday. That's when you'd take out like, oh, this is a blue towel with purple stripes because you're showing off. You're going on holiday. You're going loud. But inside in house, white towels.
Yeah, no, we've never had white towels.
Even
anyway,
now, I've got one white, one grey.
Jesus, let me move on,
and I'm
because
my own man.
Jamie already messed up my link.
This.
Jamie already messed up my link into the Patreon, which was so wonderfully set up. So we're just going to do it.
Hang on, can we try and cook up another one for you?
Yeah, sure, let's do it.
What's a word, Chris? Give me a word that's like tangent. That's linked to the word Patreon.
A Rainbow Six Patreons. I don't fucking know.
I tell you what, I really hope that Rainbow Six Vegas 2 becomes the patron saint of all future Rainbow Six releases, because more first-person shooters need to go into third-person when you go into cover.
Well, Jamie, you could be not our patron saint, but you could be our Patreon saints by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/SuperShow. And these are some people on the screen right now who have done just that, who have joined our Patreon. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to some of the awesome guys right now. They're Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy. Guys, I'm trying to read the Patreon names out. Stop tickling my toesy woesies. Jesper Camdo Nielsen, Javella Cujo, Leo Merger, Lonnie Thompson, Magic Grits, Mindful Pig, Nathan Pears, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, Zach Cream, and the big dogs. It is Shell Shock, Hacksaw Book Read, Manuel, and I can't even say that.
You got to try, buddy.
Anti Toko Empo, Guerrero.
Just say Giannis.
There you go.
Just say the Greek freak.
And the dude abides. Thank you very much to all of you. You guys are awesome. You keep the lights on. You keep us coming back week after week. We are incredibly grateful for you being our Patreons, for your patronage. And thank you very much. Thank you. Do you know what else I need to find out before we move on to a news story that we didn't want to talk about and we're going to have to talk about because there's no news? I need to know what you boys have been playing in this past week.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Let's start
No,
with...
you know what, Jonesy? You tell us what you've been playing. How about that one? You started off.
Yeah, I like that.
I believe I am the host.
Yeah.
And I will tell you... Okay, I'll go first. I've only played one game, really. I've been smashing up some more Ratchet and Clank, and I'm almost finished with it. I'm angling for the platinum. I'm doing it on a one playthrough thing, so I'm trying to pick up everything as I go through all the levels. So it's been quite meaty. Also, my kid is playing it at the same time, so we kind of have to take it in turns. And then he's like, "Can I play your game? Because you're further along than me." And I say, "No, you cannot." So I then have to watch him for an hour play it. So it's been a lot of Ratchet and Clank for me this week and rewatching the same levels. But that game is still as gorgeous and as fun to play as ever. What a fantastic game with a lot of humour and good times to be had. So hopefully next week I'll be able to let you know that I've finished it.
Ooh, that would be a treat. Very rare that we can hear that.
Rare.
A finished.
Do you know what? My plan. I'm not going to tell you which. My plan is to have 2 games finished by next week. So.
Yeah, Jonesy's going to find a game that you can fucking finish in 2 hours.
No, I've got a feeling I have an idea of what that might be.
Yeah, I think I know what it is as well.
Just not based on anything, but yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, possibly 3, but
oh my god,
I could be wrong with how far along I am in something else because I've been playing some more of something else as well that I didn't talk about just now because I haven't got much.
I mean, you could also just take the 2 hours to finish BioShock, but whatever.
Why would I do that? Anyway, let's move on. Jamie, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I have. I've been playing a couple of things like you, by the sounds of things, Jonesy. But the only thing I've got to kind of bring to the table, just because it's a relatively new release, came out today, in fact, earlier this afternoon, is a game called The Ascent, which is now on Xbox Game Pass. I think they showed it for the first time last summer. It's that kind of isometric twin stick shooter that's sort of set in that sort of futuristic dystopian, cyberpunky, Blade Runner-y, gross kind of like landscape. And look, I've only played it for an hour, and I was reading some of the reviews earlier today, and people are kind of split on it. Some people really liked it, some people...
It looks damn cool. I don't remember seeing this before. But
I think, again, first hour only. The first hour was damn cool. I think they set up the world in a really interesting way where it's sort of like it's how a lot of people create futures where like the world's run by super mega corporations. It's one of those, but I think it's set on like a planet that's really hard to get to. And what happens is basically people agree to long-term contracts working for companies in return, the company will bring them to that planet or to that place. And then they're referred to as indentured workers or indents.
Like indentured servitude kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you're basically just like a slave and you work on like underground in these there's lots of pipes and it's all gnarly. It seems like it's got to cut up some fairly interesting things going on. Like there's a lot of world building going on. It's got a lot of sort of attitude. I think the guys who worked on this, they were former Bulletstorm people. So there's swearing and gross shit and kind of thing.
But
Not
Jamie,
quite like.
Would you say it's a punk rock mosh pit?
Is it a punk rock mosh pit?
Is it a fast-paced game meets punk rock mosh pit?
I don't think it's really either of those two things. It's not very punk rock. It's not much of a mosh pit. It's also not super fast-paced. I just think like that world is like surprisingly pretty. It's one of these games that's like it's isometric, but it takes advantage of like really nice explosion effects and sort of like a sort of. The camera pulls back and you get big environments. It's all it's not lush. It's all quite ugly, but in a good way. And it's got a lot of systems that seem like they're going to be engaging. Like there's sort of like a loot system, not quite like a Destiny or like a Borderlands. Here's thousands of guns, but like a sort of like, hey, let's get some variety of lots of different weapons and armor going on. There's a character creator. There's sort of like lots of like the skills and leveling up and lots of RPG systems that seem like they could be quite fun to get into. There's co-op. Yeah, there's co-op. And I would like to try it in co-op. I'm looking I'm curious to see if the things that people didn't like about it, like it got a 6 out of 10 from GameSpot, for example. Curious to see when they start to rear their head. Apparently, like it's quite buggy at times and doesn't really reward exploration or repetition. One thing I will say that's kind of different about it, if you're looking for like a reason to like pick it up, is maybe someone who is a bit bored of twin stick shooters at this stage. It seems like it's trying to play a lot with the level of like different tiers of combat. So, for example, I was playing on a controller, you're moving with the left stick, aiming with the right stick, and you're firing. And left trigger was raise gun. And when you do it, like they raise the gun up to their eye, and you kind of think, oh, maybe it's like a slower, more zoomed in or more accurate shot. But no, you are literally like raising the level of your gun. So if there are like the first half of the game, you're fighting these little like scrubby like monster dudes. And if you raise your gun, you're actually shooting over them. So it's also a game where you can crouch. So then you're getting into this thing of like, oh, if you crouch and then hold L2, he raises a gun above his head. So you've also almost got cover in a twin stick shooter by creating like combat that exists on different tiers of verticality.
Okay,
which is an interesting way to mix it up. Guns feel okay. Like there's some cool shit going for it, but I think it's going to be one of those games that becomes defined by the fact, like, hey, it's on Game Pass, so
might as well play it.
Like,
might as well
try it. It's co-op and it's pretty and it's clearly like not bad. So try it and see if you think it's a 9 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, which seems to be kind of like the range it runs at the moment.
Yeah. For me, the twin stick shooter problem they all seem to have is how repetitive they are. That they start out strong often, and you go, oh, this is really good. I'm having a good time. And a few levels in, it's like every level is almost exactly the same. They throw a bit of variation in there, but I think that's just from the way the games are set up, like the isometric look of them a lot of the time, and the fact that there's not a lot else you can do except spin your sticks around.
One thing I will say that surprised me, because I haven't been paying much attention to the pre-release stuff. I started, like I said, in this undergroundy bit with like lots of pipes and like it was like almost like cave mines and like sewers and weird shit like that, but all very industrial. And I got this elevator up, and now I'm in like a cyberpunk city center, and it's like a hub, and I can't use there's no combat. There's literally hundreds of NPCs, not that you can interact with, but they're all there. And there's like shops and there's bars and there's some ambition to this game. It seems like a decently sized project. So I definitely recommend anyone sort of taking a look. And if you've got Game Pass, it seems like your kind of thing. Then
let's try get a co-op going.
I'm definitely down.
I'm keen.
Jonesy, you'll be able to see. Sorry, Jonesy.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, how many is it? Is it 2-player, 4-player? What are we talking?
I'd guess 4, because I think the key art had like 4 people on it.
Okay.
And like I said, there is a character creator, and like the RPG mechanics seem pretty involved, so that seems like you'd be able to create fairly different styles of characters, or have strengths in different areas.
Right.
That sounds
Okay,
cool.
that sounds cool. Yeah, that would be something to hop on and play together.
But speaking of Game Pass, Jamie, you know what's coming out on Game Pass very soon.
Psychonauts 2.
Yeah, where are you on Psychonauts 1?
It's installed.
You scumbag.
That's what. Hey, Chris. All I'll say is it's installed.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say any more. I'll leave the rest to your imagination.
Yeah, because it's installed and you haven't played it, even though you promised me you would.
Well, who's to say whether I've played it or not? Who's to say? Who's to say I'm not waiting till I've finished it to drop a bomb on you?
Oh,
I don't think so. I think you're lying. I think you're.
how long is Octonauts? Just out of interest, because I did start playing it.
You've done me in there. I don't think you even. I think he's typing it in right now, and then he'll realise.
Right now.
He's going to search in Octonauts. It's going to come up with something completely different.
It's going to be
Psychonauts.
What is it? What is
Psychonauts. Sorry, not Octonauts. We're talking about Psychonauts.
Is the Octonauts something your kids watch or something?
Yeah, I think it is.
I was going to say, because I've just searched it in, and it's like these look like bears that live underwater.
Yeah, but one of them's got an eye patch that's quite clearly Kojima.
Oh, so this is abandoned, the Octonauts.
It's about, I was actually paid to come on to say that, so that people would go search it, find the iPad.
Yeah, but Jonesy, it's not a long game. It's not a long game.
Did you guys realise that
12.5 hours,
Hassan Karaman is actually an anagram for Captain Barnacles?
Oh.
Captain Barnacles.
Anyway, getting back to Psychonauts. Apparently it's like 12 hours.
Yeah.
So one of the problems, going back to like Bioshock, the problem I had with Bioshock wasn't the fact that Bioshock is not a good game, but we all know Bioshock is a phenomenal game. I like Bioshock Infinite. I loved. I thought it was fantastic. But it's how dated some games feel, and I got to be honest, Psychonauts felt pretty dated.
Well, yeah, it's like OG Xbox, dude.
Exactly. So, and I played it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe, and then I struggled to like want to play more of it. And I think that's but Psychonauts 2, not the problem, so it might be fine.
I can't wait. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, there were some previews for that, like in the last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah,
Looks interesting.
I stayed away from it, to be honest, because I just want to get into it.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'll tell you what,
Chris, what have you been playing this week? If you've been steering clear of Psychonauts,
well, fellas, I mean, I tried. Heaven help me, I tried this week. I had a number of evenings where I was able to play games, and I don't know if you must have had it. I think every gamer has had this situation where you sit down, you've got a clear kind of schedule. You sit down, you say, I'm going to play some games, and you just don't know what to play. And then so you just kind of like, you just kind of like say, okay, well, I'll just play some of this. And you boot it up, and it just, something's not working. It's not gelling. You're not getting into it, whatever it might be. So I tried to play some Dota, couldn't find any matches in a decent amount of time that I was willing to wait for, gave up on it. I started downloading a bunch of Game Pass games. Didn't want to wait for them to finish downloading, so I just left those to kind of run in the background. Tried to play some Chivalry, but I just wasn't feeling it. Then I logged into Cyberpunk, and I was like, okay, I can get into this. And I'm trying to do this one mission. And to be fair, I could just abandon the mission. But I was trying to do this one mission where you meet up with a guy called, like, I don't know, fucking Bill Kaczynski or some shit like that. And you have to go with him. He wants to murder someone who murdered his wife, who was meant to be killed in death row, but blah, blah, blah. It's like a really small side mission, but it's really annoying because this guy that he's going to kill is surrounded by cops, and cops are very fucking deadly in this game, right? Especially with them just fucking spawning behind you and stuff. By the way, they still fucking do that, just a lot further away. So what happens now is they spawn, and you think you're okay until about 50 of them just descend on you from over the hill, and you're like, oh fuck, okay, fucking whatever.
Playing the thing, like, was it like the trumpet like they used to do in Wild West?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then come
exactly.
running.
Fucking Flight of the Valkyries coming down. But yeah, so. And it's one of these annoying things where, so usually in the game, Jamie, for your benefit as well, when you're going through like cutscenes, like in-game cutscenes and dialogue options, there's an option, you just press C on your keyboard if you're on PC, and you just skip to the next sentence and the next sentence. You can just keep on mashing C, and you just kind of skip all over it, right?
Because everyone knows that the worst part of Cyberpunk is the quest and the writing, so you just want to skip it all.
No, because here's the point. Because you'll listen to it one time and you do the mission and the police fucking murder you and you load them.
Repeat
go back.
Okay.
Yeah, except for some reason this mission, it doesn't have any of those skip fucking things. Okay? And it's a kind of like thing, you go, you speak to this dude. Once you speak to him, you get in the car. Once you get in the car, you have to fucking do this chase with like the worst driving mechanics ever. Chase this car down into like this little underpass, which takes like about 2-3 minutes, fine, whatever. And then once you're there, you get into like a shootout with the cops and you die. So it's like, okay. And then it resets and you can't skip any of this dialogue of him telling you, oh, I have to do this and you got to do this. Oh, and chase that thing and fa. And what I tried to do is I tried to save at incremental parts, but because it's like a bit of a set piece, it doesn't let you save anywhere. So you always go back to this cutscene. So I tried it 5 times, got my ass handed to me every single time because of the fucking stupid cop AI. And eventually I just fucking gave up and I said, I'm not gaming this week. That is just what it is.
It's horrible when you get something the way it doesn't. You're like, is it me? Is it the game?
Yeah. So I just watched TV.
horrible.
I was like, you know what? Passive. Just be passive. It's like fucking whatever it is.
Do you know, recent memory, one of the worst I had of that was Black Ops Cold War, where the final mission, you're supposed to blow up these towers as you drive into like I think it's like an airfield. And you're supposed to like use a grenade launcher to like blow them up. And the game was so bugged that when you shoot the grenade launchers, it's not attached to the back, like where the actual placement of the gun is in the game. So the grenades fire off some random place like behind you.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And it just keeps resetting the same sequence. It did it to me about 40 times.
Oh man, that happened to me in COD World War II. Towards the end of that game, where there was you're in the trenches and there was like a fucking tiger tank.
Right.
You have to run up behind it and put the thing up its bum.
Yeah, but something happened the way I was playing it, and to be fair, I could have reset the mission, but I was stubborn and I didn't want to. And the way that I'd gone about things and trying to get to the tank, the point where it had like a checkpoint that I always respawned at every time I try to redo the thing, it just always like respawned me by the enemies. And it was just like, it's like you spawn in, it's like an immediate firefight and the fucking tank's right on top of you. And like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I swear that took me like 2 days to try and finish because I was stubborn and an idiot and I didn't just reset the fucking mission.
I can't talk on that one, but I can tell you that Jonesy's issue with Black Ops Cold War, 100% user error.
No, it was not a user error at all. I went and found forums where people were saying like, "What is going on with this?" And it's literally
it's the internet. You can find forums of people who were born with dicks instead of legs. Like,
it's literally a game. Well, a lot of people were
legs.
saying it's a game-breaking bug, but it was the grenade launcher wouldn't even fire half the time, and you had to reload I think the fix was something like you had to reload to the previous or the beginning of the section as opposed to when it loads you in. Because it loads you in at 2 slightly different points, and then the grenade launcher works, but then it doesn't. Then sometimes it doesn't shoot. Like it doesn't shoot where you're from.
Yeah, that just sounds bugged.
Oh, it was bugged up. It was completely bugged up the arse. It was literally. It was one of those things where you're like, I have to get through this. I literally have. So what I ended up doing was trying to guess where the game thought the grenade launcher was when it would work. So I would literally start out the game, shoot it at nothing, and try and hope that the grenades, when they did fire, because you could almost hear them firing after the fact, would then fire and hit the towers they're supposed to hit.
Yeah. Thunk, thunk.
Yeah, and it was. But eventually I managed to do it, and it was like a cool set piece that's obviously not supposed to be difficult at all. It's just supposed to be like cinematic.
Yeah.
But it was just shite.
I hate when you ruin cinematic moments in game, or cinematic like moments in games are ruined for you by shit like that. You're like, there's no anticipation, there's no adrenaline, there's nothing.
It ruins it.
I still remember. Do you remember? I'm gonna forget the. There's in Red Dead Redemption 2. There's a bit just after. I think it's just after you arrive back on the main map from the island. Minor spoilers for anyone who hasn't played Red Dead Redemption 2. In fact, Jonesy, I don't even know if you got this far. Did you get this far?
Oh God, I don't even know. I don't think so.
Oh my goodness. Okay, wow.
Oh, hold on. We'll talk after. I can't. It's been a while. I'm not sure.
I mean, if the words kind of returning to the main area from the island don't mean anything to you, then
I don't think I did go to an island.
Okay, never mind. I won't get into it because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. But basically, there's like something that game has a couple of where it's like a set piece moment where you've got a long journey to do, and it breaks up the long journey by forcing you into the cinematic camera mode and playing a piece of music written for that sequence.
Right.
And one of them that happens at this point has got a song, an original song by D'Angelo, amongst other people. But I found out online after the fact that if you accidentally like wander off the path with your horse or like go stray too far from where it wants you to go, then you have to restart that journey and the song doesn't play a second time.
Oh, no.
So it's just this fucking like 10-minute horseback journey that you're just like,
silence.
Okay, great. Whereas like the original was like this sort of moody, atmospheric thing that some people like myself who intended it as experienced it as intended was like a great moment. But for some people,
I'll admit to one that was a user error that I didn't enjoy because I don't know how I messed this up, but the Jeep sequence in Uncharted 4, which everyone at the time was, that Jeep sequence is amazing. It's really cinematic. It's where you're doing the chase and you end up like falling off the back of it, and then you're like dragging yourself
and you're
back on.
you're holding a rope almost. And
yes.
And
you have to drag yourself back on.
I loved that.
Yeah, I don't know how, but I totally messed that up. And I died like a couple of times because I think you're supposed to shoot. I think someone shoots at you and you're supposed to like shoot at them while you're climbing. And I don't know I can't remember if I just forgot or didn't shoot them or just didn't think I needed to. And then they shot me and I fell off. But then in the same section, you're sort of chasing another Jeep or it's trying to chase you and shoot you. It's like an armored personnel carrier. And I went the wrong way, like around the streets. And I ended up going to a dead end. And I was like, this doesn't look right. And it just didn't feel natural. Like the level design for me just didn't gel. And I just went the wrong way. And I think I did
That's
it 3 times.
That's such a shame when that happens. Same developer, I had one of those moments at one of those things at one of the most important moments in the entire game in The Last of Us Part 2, where I won't say what's happening, but let's just say it happens on a beach.
Okay.
And like you're meant to walk up to someone and like interact with them in a way that starts a cinematic and so on and so forth. I didn't know where they were and I ran past them and I was just running circles around that area being like, where? I thought you had to walk up to the water's edge and it would just trigger something. But I was like, where are these people?
I think I also struggled with that, so I don't think it was just a you thing.
Yeah.
I seem to remember that being a little bit... Like I didn't walk past them, but I think I did think for a sec, I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to be going.
Yeah.
And then I luckily wandered into the right area.
I think that's a Naughty Dog trait where it's like they create areas that look bigger than they are and they facilitate the players like that by navigating the player in as natural a way as they possibly can. And there's a great video, I can't remember who hosts it in the end, but it's like a level designer walking through the design of the museum level, the museum flashback
that was on
level of The Last of Us 2.
Game Maker's Toolkit.
Oh, there you go. And like just talking about like watching players play the level and seeing how they do it and like how are we going to tell them where to go without telling them where to go and how are we going to like how do we avoid every other object being like shiny and hey, you can interact with this and still make it look natural and yeah, that's a fascinating problem to try and work around because people hate invisible walls, but at the same time, like you can't have unlimited freedom because at some point the player has to be told that they're going the wrong way.
The irony I would say about Uncharted 4 is I was thinking when I was saying Uncharted 4, hands down the best game I've ever played for just having natural. I know where I'm going, or I never went the wrong way. Was Last of Us Part 2. In all the sections where it does a flip and it goes cinematic and you have to suddenly run or you have to suddenly move and you feel like you have to run. The game does a fantastic job making you feel like you need to run. And I didn't go the wrong way once.
I
always went exactly the right way.
Not even that though, like in The Last of Us Part 2 where it's just like you're on horseback and it's one of those like interlude fucking things. Like I guess the museum was one of them, but there was another one where I think you're playing as Abby and you're just walking through the forest or whatever. And it's a fucking forest. And it's almost
with your
like,
dad, were you following the dad?
So it might have been that or might be another one, but there was, or maybe it was with Ellie on horseback. But anyway, it was one of these.
Ellie, when Ellie and Dina first arrive in Seattle, they're in a thick forest.
Yeah, so there was a portion, and maybe it happened in both instances. It probably did happen in both instances, to be fair, where it's a forest and the invisible walls are like the trees and stuff, right? But you've got multiple paths and no indication as to which one is the right one. But whichever one you take, it just kind of like, I guess the way they design it is it all kind of like interlinks, almost like maybe like a figure of 8 or something. That's that either which way you go, whichever fork you take, it all kind of like forks back around. And you always get you never get lost, and you always get put out that opening, that vista where it's like, if it's going to Seattle, and it's like all of a sudden Seattle fucking opens up in front of you.
They're very good at that.
Yeah,
they're very good.
But
Even
anyway.
their open areas are like good at like you always arrive in them and think, well, this looks daunting, and like 15 minutes later you're like, I got it. I know my way around.
Yeah.
Well, boys,
Hold on. I got one other thing to say.
of course you have.
Of course I have, because of course I do, because it's not like I want to go to sleep or anything. When I was looking for games on Games Pass and loading a bunch of stuff, I did notice that Heave Ho is on there. Now, we did an ATG live playing some Heave Ho. Jamie's gone all dark. There he is.
That's me opening the Xbox app.
Oh, right, yeah. And we had a really good time playing Heave Ho. So I messaged you guys and I messaged Steph, and I think we're kind of on board that hopefully next week we can do almost like a mini ATG reunion stream playing some Heave Ho. And I think that'll be, I'm so excited for that. Like, I can't even tell you. I hope we manage to pull it off. But the reason why I want to bring it up is to just kind of like tell people like, hey, next week, this is something that might happen.
I'm looking forward to it. That was one of my favorite live streams that I ever got to be a part of.
It would be a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah.
And you guys should download The Ascent if you have time and you can be bothered. I want to see what that game is like in co-op. I don't know if you guys will love it, but yeah.
Are you playing on controller?
I'm playing on controller. I don't know how well suited it is to mouse and keyboard, but I presume it can't be too bad, right? Like
It should be all right.
I mean, twin stick shooters, I know they're called twin stick shooters, but the mouse and keyboard action often works okay on them, right? Like so.
Yeah, I don't mind adding a controller.
Oh, do you want to know about that Last of Us drama, or should we save that for another day?
No, tell me, just quickly. I need to know.
The Cliff Notes version of it. So
Jonesy looks like he wants to kill me.
No, see, this is
it.
the kind of thing that I almost thought about texting Jonesy to say, hey, read about this because I know what you're like, and I know you're going to get like one thing's going to get its hook in you. And you'll know more about it than me in an hour's time.
I'm going to be up till 3 a.m. just reading stupid bloody blog posts and watching videos.
Basically, to set it up, one thing you need to know is that there are multiple subreddits devoted to The Last of Us or The Last of Us Part 2. And one of them, I don't know if it's still up or if it's in private order, but it's called r/The Last of Us 2 with the number 2, not written out. They were a subreddit that became infamous in the early days because they were the ones that did zero, if not minimal, moderation on hate threads about the game. Right. Even when it kind of got into like weird things about like Neil Cuckman, SJW agenda, that kind of stuff. The Last of Us Part 2, r/The Last of Us 2 was like the place that was like, yeah, like you can do that. This is for a discussion, and that's part of the discussion. You can say and feel however you want. It turned out that the people who were passionate about that game on that subreddit were so passionate that a year later they were still talking about it, and they were still, felt the way they felt, and they were retconning the sequel, and they believed that it wasn't canon, and it got pretty deep. And they had a bunch of sort of journalists or outlets or YouTubers that they didn't like, that they kind of categorized as people that were either on the pay by Sony or Naughty Dog, or that were just part of the whole thing.
Shit. Okay, yeah, I know what this is now, because I've just looked at the subreddit. I've
heard about this?
Yes, I have heard about this.
Okay, yeah.
I haven't. Carry on.
Yeah, do it for.
So basically, one of the channels that they hated was a channel called Girlfriend Reviews, which we mentioned before, actually. Yeah. Which was a channel where, hey, the crux of it is that there's a girlfriend who doesn't really play games. She watches her boyfriend plays games, and she reviews the experience of watching her boyfriend play the games. And they made multiple Last of Us 2 videos that were very positive. One of them was their traditional kind of send-up, but the other one was like quite a serious, relatively joke-free thing of like, hey, here's what we understood The Last of Us 2 to be about, and here's why maybe you don't get it. Which this subreddit interpreted as like, oh, this is a whole, if you don't understand The Last of Us Part 2, then you're a hate-filled idiot kind of thing. Which, of course, isn't the case. You're allowed to hate The Last of Us 2 for just about any reason you want, unless you're like a homophobe or something weird like that. Year passes, the girl from Girlfriend Reviews decides to make a tweet about how, hey, isn't it funny how these people still hate this game and still waste their time on the subreddit and still talk about us, and we've never spoken about them. The subreddit jumps on this tweet and starts taking the piss out of them, and like more like hate and vitriol, blah 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 blah. And it gets to this weird point where a member of the r/Last of Us 2 subreddit comes forward and says, "Oh my god, Girlfriend Reviews' fan base is so malicious and evil that I've been getting abuse for them just for being a part of this subreddit and for disliking The Last of Us 2. And it's gotten to the point where members of the Girlfriend Reviews community are sending me death threats. Like I, a Last of Us 2 hater, am receiving death threats from the community of Girlfriend Reviews." Girlfriend Reviews were like, "Well, that sounds weird. Like, we don't really feel like we have created or foster a community that would send death threats to anyone, so let's look into this." And it actually turned into something of an investigation. You head out over and watch their full video if you kind of want to see how they deduced it. But there are a series of things such as like consistent grammatical areas, where the person appeared to be from in terms of the country they were from, linking Reddit accounts and so on and so forth. They came to the conclusion that this person had faked the death threats that they claimed that they were being sent and essentially sent them to themselves. So this person fabricated death threats to claim that they were from a YouTuber to further lower the reputation of the YouTuber within the context of a community that only exists to hate this video game. They basically...
I don't, but that's not surprising to me. Like it's
not surprising.
That's done all the time, isn't it? People fake sending themselves stuff. What was it called? Sock puppet accounts.
It didn't really need to have a spotlight shone on it, but the Girlfriend Reviews, they basically decided, hey, we have to take this seriously, because if people don't take this seriously and put a spotlight on things like this, then eventually the day comes that someone doesn't take a death threat seriously and dies, which it's a bit of a weird hill to die on, but they decided to. And then they got in controversy as well, because they basically had communicated with the Reddit and the moderators, and the subreddit moderators did not take the death threats seriously. They continued to joke about stuff, and there was all kinds of evidence that the moderators themselves were a bit kind of scummy around this whole thing. But then Girlfriend Reviews published the video and didn't hide or obscure the names of any of the moderators, at least their names on Reddit. So the video comes out, hundreds of thousands of people watch it. They start brigading the Last of Us 2 subreddit that probably lived in peace for the last 11 months. And the moderators themselves start getting abuse and hate because of the role they theoretically played in enabling that community and allowing people like this guy who fabricated death threats to continue to exist within it. The
irony being they probably now do have real death threats.
Probably. Then there's all this shit where the subreddit went private and then it came back up again in a mode where now you can't post new stuff. And people found evidence that when they went private for those hours, they were cleaning house and wiping out topics and things that they'd said. And there's one of the moderators made a post being "Now look what you've done. Now I'm the one getting abused. You don't understand it. You just sent the people to attack me." But then people were digging through that person's Reddit history post, and they'd said weird shit about Girlfriend Reviews and said weird shit about the validity of the death threats, and it became a YouTube drama that became a Reddit drama, and it was very funny.
I'm not that keen on. This is a bit weird. So I'm sure that Girlfriend Reviews actually looked into it because they wanted to prove that it wasn't one of their fans. It was someone else who said death threat.
I would say that the other reason they felt inclined to find out what was going on is because the person who fabricated the death threats also threatened threatened Girlfriend Reviews with legal action.
Which is mental.
That makes more sense, because what I was going to say, I don't really like the idea of YouTubers, especially people the size of Girlfriend Reviews, because I don't know how many subscribers they've got, but I don't think that it's the remit of a YouTuber to try and police their entire audience. I get what they've got. They've got 1.26 million subscribers. You are going to have some nutters in any community, and the more people are in a community, the more you're going to, even if it's 0.001%, that's still hundreds of people out of a community of over a million who could be nutters. So the idea that you should look into the you shouldn't. That's not on you to have to do that. I don't think you should. I don't think you should foster that sort of environment. Absolutely not. But I think if someone says, "Some of your crazy fans have come and given me death threats," as long as you're not the person who's sort of calling for that sort of stuff, I don't think you should need to police that. So
yeah,
as long as they did it for the lawsuit and not because they think that that's something that you need to do.
I think there's probably a lot of different angles that were involved in people taking the actions they did. But
well, fellas, it sounds like a bit of a swamp
Don't ruin my segue that I was literally going to use. Like every segue. Do you know what? I had a great one. Do you want to know?
Yes.
I was going to go with talking about heave ho. I was going to say, look, and from playing heave ho to a heave ho between the state of California and Blizzard. But no, Chris ruined that because he went off on a frigging tangent, and now Chris has just stolen another one by sitting there and ruining the swamp one, and now I can't even. Do you know what?
He's done.
I'm fucking out.
He's done.
Feel bad.
Put a fork in him.
But hold on. I may be feeling a bit frozen out and a bit cold, but it's not as bad as the Activision Blizzard have been in the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
No, that was rubbish.
That'll do.
No, but I'm trying to.
No,
I got bored. I got bored.
You used the word Blizzard to talk about
I'm
the
bored.
company Activision Blizzard, which is good, but.
You have both ruined my segues this week, so I'm going to just move on.
You know what?
Because
here's the real fact bomb: a good segue cannot be ruined.
Wow.
Yes, it can when somebody just says it, like Chris did.
No.
I was going to say, and from one swamp of that subreddit to another swamp, the Blizzard swamp.
I was doing it for you.
You didn't. You ruined it. Anyway, let's move on.
Do you know who else? Do you know who else ruined it? It being their reputation.
Wow. All the men working at.
Well, at least one woman, because they've rolled her out to talk about some of this stuff to try and make it seem as though they're not as bad as they apparently are. But we are going to wade a little way into the swamp. We're only going to go ankle deep because we don't want to get too into the weeds of this one. But there wasn't that much news going on, so we decided that we would talk about it for a couple of reasons.
Although, can I just say, we have talked enough shit that if we ended the podcast here, it'd be all right.
Yeah, to be fair, it would. We
you didn't want to believe me.
It's been like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, you didn't want to believe me, but we could have. Yeah, if we'd stretched it out a bit more.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been that bad. But this is the story. I'm sure everyone has heard this, but let me just give you a little bit of a rundown in case you haven't, because the state of California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing came out with a report in June. They had been looking into the goings-on at Activision Blizzard, and they were not impressed. They actually came to the point where they were suing Blizzard for some of what was going on at the company. I think, and apparently there was a whole bunch of sort of like a frat boy attitude. There's a lot of sexual harassment. There were even cases whereby people were feeling like they were, like working in a pretty hostile environment. And the DFEH from California had tried to sort this whole issue out with Activision Blizzard through mediation. Apparently they'd gone through that process like 3 times, hadn't managed to fix or hadn't managed to get a resolution which they thought was appropriate. And so they took the epic step of actually deciding to sue Activision Blizzard. The story gets a little bit more interesting then because, of course, the management at Activision Blizzard turn around and say it's a load of rubbish, that the things that have come out from this California department are distorted and in many cases false. They're also old issues that have been dealt with, any of the ones that were true, which is a bit of a weird thing to say, right? If you're saying this is distorted and false, also that used to happen doesn't happen anymore, you're kind of admitting that it did happen at some point. But yeah, anyway, we'll leave that one floating around. You can think about that. But yeah, this last week it sort of came to a bit of a head because 2,000 members of staff from Activision Blizzard said that they were deeply unhappy with the response from the management. And that actually there were a whole bunch of issues that weren't being dealt with, and they decided to stage a walkout, which, funnily enough, was then supported by the management of Activision Blizzard, who said...
Yeah, because at that point, like, what are they going to fucking say? Like,
they can't... But at least they got that right. I wouldn't have been surprised if they then said, anyone who walks out, you're losing your bloody job and we'll replace you. And
only the woman, though. Guys, you're okay.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, this has been a pretty weird story that that is.
It's just like one thing. In a way, if you're like into drama, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
I'm into that sort of drama, and I have not been interested in this story at all because I kind of read the first few stories about it. It sounded pretty terrible, and then I don't know. From that point on, I was like, "This is just a
I think when it first, like, the news first dropped, it was almost like. And it's sad to say, but it's almost like that standard thing of like big AAA game studio and sexual harassment. The story we've heard time and time again. And it's almost like you get a bit desensitized to it and you're like, okay, fine, another one. But for me at least, the more kind of details that started leaking out in this, it's like, fuck, man, this is like some weird shit going on. And it just got more and more interesting.
It did. There was a slight... It is interesting when you read about the story as well, because some of the things do sound like they could have been one-off things that happened, and that maybe there have been... when you string a whole load of those together for a long period of time with a load of employees, that it makes it sound worse than it was. But there are other things that make it sound like, Jesus Christ, this would be a terrible place to bloody work.
There are quite some specific fucking instances of things where you're like, oh, wow. Okay.
So, but I suppose some of those things, like every office can have a certain culture, and you kind of expect some kind of, drinking, a little bit of getting a bit raucous. But then when you get to the things like female members of staff felt like they were being, they were going to be sexually harassed, and the male members of staff were crawling around, drinking, like groping people. You're like, Jesus, like what the hell is this place? It kind of takes it to a bit of another level, really, doesn't it?
It sounds like honestly, it sounds like, I know they said like a frat boy mentality, but it does sound like a Hollywood depiction of what like frat houses. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
I can imagine like National Lampoon's frat game dev company,
or like fucking like shit out of Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I was just thinking Wolf of Wall Street. It sounds like Wolf of Wall Street.
Not quite throwing midgets at dartboards, but at the same time, not too far off.
Jesus.
Do you, this is to not give them a pass in any way. Do you think there is an air of like gamers, well, not even gamers, like game devs, people that are maybe less aware when it comes to dealing with people of the opposite sex, who then get into a work environment, become managers, become leaders, and then don't really know how to take that responsibility seriously
100%.
And have just literally let it run away with them and go, because it sounds like it should be something from the 70s or 60s when we're like, but that doesn't happen anymore.
No, but like I think you hit the nail on the head. Like imagine you're a fucking game nerd, all right, and you probably have a tough time communicating with people, let alone the ladies, all right? And then all of a sudden you become creative director on like one of the biggest games in the world for one of the biggest game developers in the world. And all of a sudden you've got this massive clout. And a particular type of scumbag would act upon that in very kind of like dubious ways. And I think that's exactly what has happened here. It's what's happened at Ubisoft, what's happened at Riot. Like,
I that's definitely possible, but I can't really speak from personal experience in terms of being in environments where things like to this degree happen. But if I can speak to my own experience in terms of growing up around men who were either capable or not capable of this kind of behavior, the men I grew up around who were good at speaking to women and good at quote unquote getting women were the ones who were far more likely to do despicable things.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I think you're forgetting about the power element, which is what I'm kind of getting at.
I think that makes a big difference.
Oh yeah, it's like it's the groupie effect, right? Like you think about it in terms of like rock star and rapper kind of things, all right? And how all of a sudden you're catapulted into stardom and all these groupies are around and actually you become like misogynistic pieces of shit, etc., blah, blah, blah. But you don't necessarily think of it that way in terms of games.
Yeah, you don't think of the creative director of a big game as thinking of themselves like a rock star who can do whatever they want.
But then think about companies like Blizzard and titles like World of Warcraft, where all of a sudden you are like a fucking creative director of World of Warcraft. You are a person responsible for a number of storylines and quests that people really fucking resonate with. And all of a sudden, somehow there's an opportunity to meet this person. It's the same kind of fucking thing. It's the power that these people have that they can then exert over other people. Now, I know what you're talking about, Jamie, in terms of saying like people that are good with women are able to kind of take advantage of that more so than people who are not good with women. But don't forget that power.
No, the power is an important element. I just didn't want us to fall into the trap of saying like, oh, this is happening because nerds became popular and they couldn't handle it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough.
Oh, so Isaac, when so some of the worst stuff, I don't think I'm not sort of talking about those guys. There was a creative director actually got fired because he was like all over the female employees, and they sort of let him go. I was thinking more about the middle level managers who were just acting like dicks, not the ones who were doing things that were sort of almost be criminal. I'm talking about the ones who it sounds like they just acted like morons, like crawling around. They called it cube crawling, where they would crawl around from cubicle to cubicle, drinking and like hanging on women's legs and stuff. It's not even getting with anyone. It's not even using the power of your position to get with the intern. It's more just being weird around people which is I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair to say that sounds like that you. But it is, some of it is pretty strange. I'm not going to lie. You'd have to read sort of some of the people have said what's going on and what was sort of being played out. One of the ones that we did here was so they said that male managers would come to work hungover and then palm their work off on female, younger, less like lower down female employees. So that to me sounds a bit dodge. That just sounds like actually what was happening was there weren't many female managers and the male managers were just handing their work off to subordinates. It sounds like they tried to, but it sounds like it was a pretty scummy place to work, and especially if you were a woman.
I mean, let's be honest.
Like it would be a bit grim.
How many times, not equating us to what's happened here, but how many times did we come into the office hungover and felt like we didn't necessarily want to do work? Like a lot of times, right?
Yeah, a decent amount.
Not that we were able to palm off work, and
I didn't then search out of a more inexperienced female member of staff.
And this is the key thing. Also, like we can't be too careful to like look past atrocities to find lesser things that we can defend.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, of course.
It's funny.
It's like actually, I'm not going to make that analogy. That's all. I'm trying to be careful.
I tell you, it's one thing that made this interesting to me is because I came up working in TV, so a lot of the when I was younger, when I first started out, and a lot of my bosses and managers were women, and I think that was just the nature of television that I was working in was, and so I definitely think there's that kind of thing about representation. If you have women at all the levels of the business of the industry, a lot of this stuff is weeded out quite early on, and I wonder if part of the problem they had is. I wonder if that because it's a games company that was less so the case, some of the higher up dudes just kind of went a bit mental. But the one thing they did do, which is pretty common in a story like this, is as soon as it all started kicking off, they wheeled out one of the female employees, a Blizzard executive by the name of Fran Townsend, to start sending emails and memos and talking to the staff. Because of course, if you want to make people believe that you are not sexist piece of shit, you just roll a woman out to try and make your point for you, because then everyone believes you. So.
But the funny thing
some
is,
of her best friends are women.
The funny thing about her response is,
my mom's a woman.
The funny thing about her response is, it was maybe the worst response out of everyone's response.
Was that the one that was like worded in such a way like I'm actually really proud of all the progress we've been making on this program and that program, and we started doing this, and we could be that was a weird. Very
to be fair, a lot of the
statement.
responses, you said it. A lot of the responses were said to be very tone deaf.
So can I give you a quote of hers? Because this is like basically flies in the face of the entire investigation, I guess. She said, "Rest assured that leadership is committed to continuing to maintain a safe, fair and inclusive workplace. We cannot let egregious actions of others and a truly meritless and irresponsible lawsuit damage our culture of respect and equal opportunity for all employees." Now, the problem with that is, if you are an employee of that company, you operate on a very different way to the executives. Like the executives have no idea what your daily life is like. So it must have been a bit of a slap in the face for all of the people that were working in that company who agreed with this report to then receive that from the management to say, you all know that we think we don't treat people like this. I mean, we all love you and think you're fantastic, especially if you think, what a load of horseshit.
Yeah. It's mad, man. It's mad. One of my favorite things is Bobby Kotick. Like, fuck, I don't even know what is he CEO of Activision-Blizzard?
I think so.
Yeah. It says boss on the article.
Yeah, he's like the top dog at Activision-Blizzard.
He is CEO, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And he only came out with a statement days after all of this kind of fucking started kicking off, because, surprise, surprise, Activision Blizzard's share price started to tumble, and who probably owns majority of those share prices as an individual?
I think I found he owns 4 million. I think he owns 4 million shares.
Right?
I think I saw that a second ago.
Yeah, and
he lost tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah, and it was only after that did he kind of wade into it and say, like, to be fair, he said the things he probably should be saying, but it's a little bit disingenuous with the timing, I guess. And
yes. It's also worth noting that, like, he's a man who obviously we talk about his like how much how many shares he owns and
how much bonus money he gets. And
bonus money was the point I was going to make. I think the famous figure was one from a handful of years ago where something happened to the company and it triggered a clause in his contract that earned him a bonus that some people estimated to be $200 million.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, cry for the millionaires, the billionaires, but there you go. Oh, man.
Fucking hell, man.
See, one of it's interesting because one of the things that came out, someone said this happened was a male supervisor allegedly told a male subordinate to buy a prostitute to cure his bad mood. It is weird when you get to the point where you're bringing up like one incidence of something someone said. It's got to be a lot of individual incidences when 2,000 of your members of staff sign a letter to say like that's a pretty damning sign that your workplace has gotten pretty fucking bad when they're all agreeing that they're going to walk out.
Yeah, because I think you're right. Like, it's almost like what we said with the Last of Us subreddit. Like, it's a numbers game. The more people you hire, there are bound to be one or two bad seeds, right? But yeah, it's almost like how many fucking bad seeds were there in order for it to kind of escalate to this particular kind of thing, and how often and how long were these bad seeds allowed to fucking continue? It is fucking crazy.
Yeah. It's a big company. It's an incredibly well-known company. It's also there's a weird thing here because obviously Activision and Blizzard joined together and became Activision-Blizzard. Was there never a point at which one of those companies were like, "Yo, dudes, what the fuck are you doing?" Is they sort of the culture from the other one, or maybe they were both as bad as each other?
So I think the problem is a lot of this issues are coming from the Blizzard side of things, right? And if you think that, like, if it's coming from the Blizzard side of things and it's been going on for a number of years, maybe it was there before the Activision part of Activision-Blizzard. But then you also think about Activision as kind of this company that's got COD, and you think of, not to generalize here, but you can imagine that that's kind of male-centric as well. You put those two companies together and you've got these male-centric people kind of looking at male-centric people, and they're probably just fucking giving each other high fives. Like, hell yeah, bro.
I don't know, but I'd be really surprised if that was the case. Like, I would have thought that one would be, because this, in some ways, this kind of sounds like a bunch of people that have somehow ended up being very wealthy, very powerful in a massive company who haven't necessarily developed in the right ways to be at those positions. I would have hoped that maybe one Activision or Blizzard or people from one would have said, dudes, this is not how you do this. But yeah, maybe you're right.
There have been people that did say that kind of stuff. But you got to understand that, well, from the reports at least, the systemic kind of issues that were there were the fact that people in HR, so if you're an employee and you get harassed, what do? You have to go to your HR department, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But the people in HR are chummy with the fucking creative directors that are doing all this fucking weird shit. One of them was in a fucking picture of the now infamous Cosby suite. Like you have pictures of an HR person attending a party that's been dubbed the Cosby party in the Cosby suite, which was like a hotel room at one of the BlizzCons. Like, so you can't even trust your HR people.
There's a tweet I saw, because obviously, like, my Twitter in terms of like who I follow and like I guess maybe what I've liked or read, or basically the way it's ended up being curated.
Yeah,
a lot of like kind of depressing stuff has been surfaced on there the past couple of weeks, and there was one. I think it was a male former Activision Blizzard employee, I think on the Blizzard side of things, who confided that he was approached by one of his female co-workers and told about some form of, I think, sexual abuse or harassment that she had faced. And she said that she wouldn't go to HR for it out of fear of the repercussions of flagging it and maybe being perceived as a troublemaker or whatever. and refused to let him go to HR on her behalf either, for the same reason. She didn't want it being linked back to her. And like, you just hope there are, but you it's one of those things, like, you never know what you can acknowledge you're looking at the tip of the iceberg and you don't know how deep it goes. And it's just kind of depressing when you hear shit like that.
Yeah.
And that's what my whole Twitter feed has been like since all this started. It's just depressing, especially like when you get people from other corners of the industry and other countries, or working in other developers and so on and so forth. Like, it's a bummer when something that you want to be so proud of, like as an industry, and I know that's a weird thing to say as like a guy who just talks on podcasts, but I do kind of want to be proud of the games industry and stuff like that. And you just realize that like there are still so many people who don't feel comfortable in it, or have been victims of some fucked up shit as a part of how much growing it still has to do, seemingly across the board. Because like we said earlier, like it feels like you're just due one of these major blow-ups like clockwork at this stage. Major companies, lots of employees, lots of people affected. And that sucks.
There's a weird thing, because it was actually this week, I think it was a few days ago, that an EA exec came out and said that the term gamer is outdated, and that gaming is just now, it should just be called interactive, and it's some interactive entertainment, and like you don't need gamers anymore because everyone plays video games. I think that's really sad, because as someone who's played games since, for the last 30 years, I think that there's nothing wrong with gamers, with a small G or a big G. There can be, they can have problems with them. We've all been those people in certain ways at certain times. But I think we all hope that the gamer will just evolve with the times and will seamlessly just fit in, with where the industry's going. Yeah, because none of us want to see our whole sort of, what do you call it, like our group insulted, but then proven to be
People don't get called TVers or moviers or radioers. like why does a hobby shouldn't have to define?
I guess what that EA exec is trying to say is that like
everybody
is potentially a gamer. Like there's no real distinction.
Yeah, exactly.
But it also, in a weird way, I think that's what he's trying to say. But at the same time, I also think he's trying to say we don't need to appeal to the gamers anymore. And I think that one of the things is if you're like a diehard like movie fan, you maybe think of yourself slightly different as someone who only goes to see box office Marvel movies. And I think that you don't kind of get insulted, called out, ridiculed for being like a hardcore film fan in the same way that you do if you're a gamer. And I think just because you remove the term,
I don't remember the last time I felt insulted to be a gamer. I think it's still like in the media. People attach.
I think in the media. Sorry, go on.
Oh no, that's what I was going to say. I think it's still that sometimes it's a thing that socially people attach to you. Like in our last office, like there were lots of people who played games, but there were only certain people who were probably called gamers. If that made sense.
Yeah, totally.
Which is a weird distinction.
I was talking rather than like one-on-one. I was talking more about like the media, the way that the media talk about gamers, and it's often not good. Like it's often a toxic gamers, or gamers are this, gamers are that. Yeah. Like da 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 da. It'll be nice if gamers became as almost ignored in the way that hardcore movie fans or music fans aren't called out and ridiculed. But it doesn't do a lot for us when you have a company as big as Activision-Blizzard apparently are full of a bunch of dickheads. But it's also had a knock-on because work on World of Warcraft apparently has ground to a halt during this entire swamp fest that's been going on. So it has had a knock-on as well. Also, Chris started to write something in the document about a BlizzCon panel saying resurfacing, but then he didn't finish it off, and I don't know what it was.
It was a... So this is the interesting thing whenever these things kind of crop up, where clips like this resurface and they're almost like recontextualized. Not that this clip was ever good to begin with, but it does kind of like shine a different light on things. So it was a panel from a previous BlizzCon where a female fan of World of Warcraft came up to a Q&A session, and in this Q&A session, she, it was like open mic kind of thing, and she asked a question that effectively was like, why does it seem like all your characters are based off of people out of a catalog, like a Victoria's Secret catalog? And what are you doing to kind of move away from that? And basically the entire panel of like white men, effectively, including in the panel the creative director who got dismissed a year ago. I forget what his name was. And
Josh Mosquier?
No, not
Mosquier?
Joe. I think he. No, I don't think he was on that panel.
Or is that a different thing?
No, this is the Asfariti or whatever his name is. Anyway, completely butchered.
Hassan
Karaman. Completely butchered that. And Jay
This
Allen.
Afrosabi.
That's it. That's the one. And Jay Allen Brack was on that as well, who is the head of Blizzard, the Blizzard portion. Yeah. And their response was just basically laugh at the woman and say, oh yeah, if we're not going to look at a Victoria's Secret catalog, then we'll look at a Sports Illustrated catalog or something. Is that okay? Ha ha ha. And then it kept on cutting back to this poor woman, and she was like, well, cameras are on me, so I'm going to smile, but I'm quite clearly uncomfortable by this.
Oh, I can't do cringe.
That's
like
cringe.
That.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? It was never a good clip to begin with, but when seen in the context with the people that are there, you just kind of man, that kind of shines.
And let's be honest, probably also the people in the audience too were probably the overwhelming majority of them were sort of middle-aged white men.
Oh, totally. I mean, they were. Everybody in that hall was laughing because the guys on the panel were making a joke about it and ha 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 ha. Yeah. And then this poor woman was just there, kind of cringing.
But
WoW's a weird one as well because I think with a lot of games people can say, oh, you haven't got enough representation of women and whatever. And I think in some senses you could turn around and say, women don't play this game. This is a 99.9% male game. So excuse us for appealing
but I think
to the men.
WoW is different.
WoW is completely different.
Yeah.
WoW is probably almost 50-50.
I'd say overall, Blizzard do a mostly good job of making games that theoretically appeal to everyone. You can see maybe early on StarCraft and Warcraft probably had Overwatch, but by the time you get into Overwatch territory,
Overwatch you've got fucking Zarya and May and all loads of different
now when you say that, that's so weird because the amount of shit that I've watched over the years where people calling out Overwatch, calling it what was that comment earlier, woke trash because it's got because of the female characters, and then you find out that nope, Activision-Blizzard are some of the worst.
But then
a game like the second version of StarCraft 2, which was Heart of the Swarm, where you're playing as Sarah Kerrigan, was a sexy alien, and she's completely being taken over by the Zerg, so she doesn't have clothing anymore, and yet she's got fucking high heels, scales, but high heels. Yeah. And it's that's a male game.
Hold on.
That's a male game.
We better not be removing all sexy aliens in high heels from video games because I will not be happy with that situation. All we need to do is make sure you balance it out. That's all we're saying. Make sure you include some Victoria's Secret's sexy aliens with scales and high heels, but also include some actual normal-looking people.
I was watching one of the talk of the town in terms of British trash TV at the moment. I was watching Love Island earlier today.
Oh god! Yeah.
And by and large, I think they're at a point now where for every slow motion shot of a woman's back, her woman's derriere. Because they're usually not wearing very much because they're on holiday, let them relax. There is also usually a slow motion shot of a man rubbing oil deep into his six pack, so you can cater to both. You can objectify both people at the same time. But I think a lot of the time you look at something we talked about this in terms of the hierarchy at places like Blizzard and Activision and often the lineage, if you go back to the very start. But I think for a very long time, video games were kind of seen as these products, and this is something we've touched on a little bit, and they were products that were made by men and they were made for men. There weren't, for a long time, a really long time if you think about it, there weren't that many people that were really trying to sort of challenge that way of working. And I think it got to a place where it needed to change. It shouldn't have been that way to begin with, but I think for too long, we were allowed to almost turn a blind eye to it in a weird way. If anything, actually, I don't know. It's so difficult to talk about some of these subjects, but if this is how things change, then good.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been a long time coming, not only for Blizzard, but for the industry wider. I mean, we know that Ubisoft employees have signed a letter of kind of support for Blizzard. And they themselves are kind of Ubisoft's had its own fucking issues, and they are trying to make Ubisoft management kind of accountable as well.
They feel like they're still grappling with that. In large respects, Ubisoft management have managed to. The argument there is almost like a Catholic Church situation that they got away with a reshuffling rather than actually doing anything.
Yeah, they took all the bad priests and just sent them to a house in Connecticut or something.
Yeah,
whatever Spotlight was based in.
Yeah,
Chicago.
Yeah,
I don't know. Whatever.
Actually, yeah, that sounds Chicago or Boston or something like that. One of those.
It was the Boston Globe.
Boston. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I knew it was one of those places that was like, okay, it's not New York or California.
Yeah. So sorry, Boston. All these horny game devs are going to be shipped over to you. So get ready for the influx.
I know some people don't like this. I genuinely hope a lot of it is exaggerated. Like, it's not good, but I really do hope that a lot of it is exaggerated.
What do you mean by that?
I think Josie's saying he hopes it's not as bad as it actually fucking is.
Because there's two possibilities, right? There's a possibility that the stories
what would hope? Okay, sorry, I'll let you explain.
Because obviously you're going to have, because you will have people that read the articles and go, yeah, this is the truth. This is what we need to expose. This is really bad. And I think that's what you have to go with, because that's what's come out and that's what's been revealed. And that's what a lot of the studies and the research and the employees have backed up. But even though that's probably the true, I still hope that a lot of it is exaggerated and actually it wasn't as bad as it sounds. Because
why?
Because then the people wouldn't have had to deal with it. In reality, I'm saying, I hope that in reality, day-to-day working
do you
in the
not think
office
that's a strange precedent for the people who are people in the present who have dealt with it? Like, would you go up to one of the people who attested to these events and said, God, I hope you're exaggerating?
No, because those people obviously won't be exaggerating because they'll be talking about what happened to them. But I think a lot of times, like we talk about a bubble, like we can say, we hear about stuff and then we think it's a lot bigger than it is. You could have had a decent chunk of people that had some horrible situations, but actually that wasn't replicated across the entire business.
I get where you're coming from. It just, I feel like that's...
I always hope with these stories that they are to some extent blown up somewhat, because I would rather people didn't have to actually live with the realities of it.
I just don't think I like that phrasing. Like,
I hope this exaggerated.
I hope that it's been blown up. I hope that it's been blown. Like, imagine it being told about the Holocaust for the first time and saying, "God, I really hope those Jews are blowing things out of proportion." Like, it's just a weird take.
They didn't do it.
I get the sentiment. Like, I hope that wasn't as bad as it sounds like, because that's horrible.
I do with that as well.
It's a weird way of phrasing it. I hope these people are just blowing it out of proportion.
I suppose
it's a strangely dismissive way of making that.
No, I'm not dismissing it. I'm not dismissing it at all. I'm saying I hope for the sake of the people involved that it wasn't as bad as as what's come out. I'd much rather the reality was that it wasn't quite as bad as it sounds, but now that it's been exposed, however bad it was, that it will get dealt with and it will be better in the future. Because I'd rather that be the case than the alternative, which is, no, this is exactly as bad as it was and it was a complete shit show to have to live with. But probably the chances are it was as bad as it sounds and it did happen. And so still, hopefully this will make it better and the company will improve and it will get a bit better. But we have to move on anyway, because we can't talk about the shit show that is Activision-Blizzard
move on.
Night.
It's just getting a bit heavy now.
It is getting a bit heavy. But let's move on to the Annapurna Interactive Showcase, which happened just before we went live earlier tonight. About,
boy.
5 hours ago. We're just going to touch on this briefly.
You boys, you're always throwing shade at Annapurna, but you know what? They are building up an extremely good track record as a publisher of independently developed video games, and I won't hear anything said otherwise.
Okay.
I better stop talking then.
Bro, seriously, give yourself a reminder of the products that Annapurna Interactive have released in their short time of existence, and you'll be like, actually, they clearly know when they clearly can identify a promising video game in like 80% of cases.
I am only joking because, of course, Annapurna do have a very good track record. Let's touch on a few of the games that they announced updates to, and a number of new games were announced. The Artful Escape, Solar Ash, Stray, Neon White, and Skin Deep were all announced, or updates were announced for. The one that grabbed me, I think Jamie grabbed you the most out of those ones, was probably Stray, when I actually saw the game and actually got to look at some of the footage. If you haven't seen it, that looks wicked. That is a game where you play as a cat in a, I don't think I'd say dystopian future, but I don't even know, like a strange kind of sci-fi future where instead of people, there are robots knocking around. But you play as, in a very almost photorealistic way, or a very well-rendered cityscape, you are a cat wandering around the streets, being chased by weird little doughy mice blob things. And it looks like a really good game. Like, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah. they've revealed that I don't know if you mentioned this, Jonesy, but like at some point you adopt sort of like a drone companion, and it looks like that drone will be used for sort of like a further puzzle sort of solving abilities, and also like seemingly communicating with NPCs in some ways. But yeah, I was just really impressed that like it looked quite sharp, and they're doing this curious thing that I wasn't sure about at first, but it made total sense, where rather than being sort of like a platformer where like, hey, it said press X to jump, which is kind of what it looks like it could be, it's more of like a, you know how in Spider-Man you would like see a ledge and your cursor would almost go over that ledge and you'd press L1 and R1, you'd zip to it. Yes. It's got that way of working for the jumps, so you'll see the X icon as to where you'll leap up to, which kind of is a really neat way of saying, hey, look, cats are obviously pretty mobile creatures.
The rendering of the movement of the cat was fantastic.
That's what I was going to say. It allows them to control the animations in this really smooth way, which again is kind of just true to how cats move, right? There's an elegance to the way they kind of like, apart from when they fuck up a jump and it makes for a great you've been trained home video, they misjudge it and fall short. Or then they always land on their legs. So
when they sneeze and get caught on camera, which is one of my favorites.
Oh, did you see the clip where the cat sneezes and it gets snot all over the owner? It just has a sneezing fit. Oh, that's disgusting. I'd send it to you after this.
Nice.
But yeah, that looks rad.
That did look very good. Do you know what? I'm going to jump to Skin Deep because I'm not sure if the voiceover was actually being legit, but that was I think you're on like a spaceship or a space station. Well, I think it was a spaceship, not a space station, where the setup seemed to be that you were the insurance policy, I suppose, for a ship carrying cats that was invaded by pirates, and you then had an arsenal of weapons and things to use and attack the pirates and try and clear the ship out. And it was a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, that was the one trailer that just did not speak to me at all.
I quite liked that. I thought it looked kind of interesting because they sort of played around with there's some humour there. Was sort of saying that you can utilise the ship systems to try and sort of eradicate the pirates as well. Like they had a guy being sucked out of an airlock because he was standing by an airlock and they threw a gun, didn't have any bullets left, onto the switch, which opened the airlock. The dude got sucked out. But then you also got sucked out as well and were then outside, floating around in space, and you climb back through an airlock, get back in the ship. It sort of showed off a few weapons and a few different ways the game works. It looked like there was some humour to it, but then it did look a little bit low rent. Like the visuals didn't look great.
Yeah. It's this developer of Quadrilateral Cowboy, which I never played, but I know some people like that. So,
but then also, Jamie, I cannot remember the name of the guitar hugging, like weirdly animated little dude. What was the game that
was The Artful Escape? The
Artful Escape. One of the most trash looking games.
What do you mean? Like, I thought the visuals in that were genuinely really impressive. This sort of like psychedelic. I think the premise seems to be it's a sort of over the top story of a young man who decides to like invent a crazy stage persona, and like the whole game seems like it goes on in some like weird LSD induced trip within his head, and he's like leaping around and he's like playing the guitar and the music sounds rad. And I think they said they announced some of the voice cast, right? And it was like some big names.
I didn't actually hear the voice cast, but do you know what? I couldn't sort of keep it together after they showed some of the animation of the main character, and he looked like a little pushpin puppet, like 2D guy whose arms and legs were kind of flopping around. And the problem is, my kids watch a lot of trash animation on YouTube, and it looked like that. Like it did look like that, and I couldn't. I was like, I'm out.
Oh my god, what is this?
I think his animation style is like what Jonesy's saying. It's that weird thing where like you're saying, you've got pins on the joints and everything's kind of just like moving. But I think it's exaggerated in a way that's fun, and I think you look at the environments and sort of like the world they've created. I think it's hard to attack the visuals of this game. And by the way, the names I was looking for, I think these people are all playing side characters, not the main characters, but it was Lena Headey, Jason Schwartzman, Mark Strong, and the legend that is Carl Weathers.
Oh, wow.
That is a good list, to be fair.
Yeah.
You then also had one which did look quite cool, although might be a bit one-trick pony, was Neon White, which is the first-person, I don't know, would you call it a shooter? It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah. A shooter where you don't see the gun.
Yeah, you kind of have cards that you use instead, and you can use them to zip around in a level, and I guess you're trying to do it for time and see how quickly you can zip around, kill enemies, and get to a point and finish a level. I'm going to say it now. Jamie got a bit frustrated with me, I think, because in our WhatsApp group before the pod, I think I can't even remember what I said. I said something like, what a bunch of trash.
Yes, well, trash was the word used.
I didn't mean trash. I didn't mean any of these games look bad. Like, not necessarily these ones, but what they were showing. But there's a definite thing with indie games where they look a certain way because they have very small teams and they have to kind of get everything produced and made on a budget with a limited number of people. But they also, because of that fact, I think rely maybe on sort of individual mechanics too heavily, and games can end up relying on this game has this mechanic and that's what you're doing for like the whole game. And there was a lot of that.
Yeah, but then they go heavy on the narrative and you don't like those games either.
I wouldn't mind it if it felt like a game with a narrative. The problem is a lot of these games end up feeling like narratives that have a couple of animations thrown in. Like, okay, a great looking game that was heavy on narrative but was not really a game. I'd say Gree was one of the best examples of an indie that I played the entire indie of, liked it, thought it was cool, and got to the end and was like, it's not really a game. Don't really get.
You can't say that. You can't throw that around like that. You can't say that Gree was not a game.
It's more like an interactive
game,
like an abstract interactive experience.
A game.
A game. That's a game. You're describing video games.
No, because in some sections you can't. There's nothing you can do to. There's no fail state, so you'll be getting chased. It doesn't matter. It does matter. You can't have It can't be a game if you can't lose.
I disagree. I think if that's your definition of a game, then I think you're counting yourself out of a whole lot of phenomenal experiences.
If you were playing basketball,
I think that's a bizarre way to define a game. That
football,
it has to have a fail state.
You love a bit of football, right? If you were playing football and you were working really hard and you were running around, you were kicking the ball and you were feeling really good, and then you were like, oh, blimey, I'm a bit sweaty, I'm going to go have a drink, and you walked off the pitch and you got a bottle of water, you turned around and the ball was dribbling itself toward the goal and it was scoring even then you weren't there, and you suddenly were like, oh, I don't even have to interact with this thing. The ball's going to keep scoring itself. You would not be as happy as you would be with playing a lovely game of football.
No. I don't think that's the point you're trying to. Sounds like you're trying.
That's
to make.
literally the point I just made.
No, the point you made sounded more like this. Imagine
There's no fail state.
Imagine if you were playing a game of football, and I proposed to the opposition team, hey, first to 5 goals wins, and they go, oh no, we're not going to play this game. No winners or losers. We're just going to play for fun. And then I would stand there and say, well, sorry, we're not playing football then.
No, it's not the same because you could still play the game. You could get 5 goals.
No, the only thing I removed was the fail state.
You haven't lost the fail state. Just because the other team might not say that one of you won or lost, you have still played the game in exactly the same way.
What's the fail state in the game that I have created where there are no winners and losers?
Because
what's the fail state?
They've said there's no winners or losers, but if they put 5 goals past you before you put 5 goals past them, you still know that you've lost.
So now we're creating a scenario where if a fail state is removed, but you can still place one into the game using your own interpretation, then something can still be a game. So if I played Gree and created my own fail state based on any variables that I decide, it will all of a sudden become a game in your estimation. Despite the fact that I had not created my fail state in cooperation with the other people that are a part of the product.
If you played something like Gree and the game didn't said, if you die, you don't fail, but you kept falling off a ledge and you never progressed because you kept falling off that ledge. And the game was like, you haven't failed. You haven't lost any lives. You just try again. That happens in games already. Like you might say that's not a fail state because you can just keep playing. That already happens. The difference with Gree is, like I said, a great looking game, a lovely narrative, but the game didn't stop. It would just keep pushing you forward. You could literally stand still and nothing would happen, obviously, but there were sections of that game where you couldn't have failed in the sense of the game would just keep moving and you'd go through a section, you'd get to the end point and it would kind of finish. Like that wasn't the whole game. That was only some of the game, but
that for you means that it's not a game because at certain points you're being ushered on to further in a later stage of the process.
I would say it's
without any input.
No, I would say it's how much of the game has that. I wouldn't say, you can't say if one section like that happens.
Okay,
then it's
so now I have to ask, how much of a game does a game have to not be a game before a game's no longer a game?
Oh, I suppose it's too easy to say if it's 50% or more. Maybe, okay, yeah, maybe. If it's more than 50% of a game.
Okay.
Then
so an official game classification, Jonesy, if you were to open if Jonesy were to create the isitagame.com domain, you would have to go through, you'd have to time your playthrough, and at a minimum 51% of your playthrough would have to have you having your hands on the game, but you personally progressing the game and pushing yourself or the character or whatever forward.
The interactive
in a situation where there were fail states.
The interactive sections of the game.
The interactive section.
So not cutscenes, because otherwise any Kojima game wouldn't be a game.
51% of the time spent interacting with the video game, you would have to be personally pushing the narrative and the character forward in a scenario where there were also fail states that could impede your progress. And 51% of the timer, 51% of the interactive portion of the game. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't even call it a game because it might not be. Got to wait till the timer comes in.
You got to wait till the timer comes in.
51% of the experience.
What are they?
Fulfilled that estimation that it would become a video game.
Who are the people that did Walking Dead?
Fellas.
And
Telltale.
Telltale, not
okay,
games.
Fellas, you guys carry on.
They might need to change their name.
I think I'm just going to fall asleep quickly, all right? So carry on.
Seriously, no, you watched the Annapurna thing. That's fine. We are having a conversation though that like you could back me up on this. I mean, I'm not crazy.
You could back me up, Chris.
Josie sounds like a crazy person.
You could back me up, Chris. That wouldn't.
Please
be a game,
tell me,
would it?
Josie. Please tell me, Josie sounds like a crazy person.
Well, Jamie, do you know what you call? Do you know what you call something which is 100% that you don't have that the game pushes you forward? It's called a film, and that's not a game because that's 100%. So there has to be a line between 100%.
But Jonesy, name me a film that you've watched in the last year, let's say, or maybe even 5 years. I don't know. There might be one, but
that's a game.
Name me a film in the last 5 years that has stopped and waited for you to make a decision before it proceeds.
Telltale games.
No, name me a film that you have seen. Something
a Telltale game.
Yeah, because Telltale game there was no cinematic release. I can't go and buy a DVD of The Walking Dead season 1.
You can watch films that you can't buy a DVD of.
Any version, but then what version of the?
Hold on, what is this question,
fellas? Hold on a second.
I'm saying you were trying to say that Telltale
you guys are diverging so fucking far away from each other that there's no point of returning.
Yeah, I don't know where this is going.
Can you just move on to the next thing so we can end this podcast?
I'm saying you can't call Telltale games films because there's no such thing as a film where you have one element of interactivity. You said they might as well be films.
I'm dying.
I didn't say they were films.
I'm dying.
It only takes one single element of interactivity to separate the two mediums.
I can tell you lots of films though where without any interaction they wouldn't progress because that's what the whole DVD menu's about. If you don't press play, you don't watch the film, Jamie.
That's not interactive. You're not interacting with the medium.
No, you don't understand. That's a fail state, which means that those DVDs are games. Can we just fucking move on, please? Because this is fucking killing me. I want to go to bed. So can we just
let's
say
talk about?
I'm actually. Do you know
don't
what?
talk about anything. Just say.
Let's talk about the new partnerships that have been announced with Annapurna because they have announced some cool partnerships. One of them being jumped out at me was No Code because of course Observation was a fantastic game, which was very good.
Chris, everyone loves you when you're like this. That's what they come to the podcast to hear. Video game discussion being interrupted by someone who wants to go to bed.
There was also something, of course, which piqued my interest and probably a lot of other people, which the guys behind Stanley Parable.
This was a mad one.
Yeah, I didn't really get what was going on with this. This is Ivy Road, where they didn't give anything away. They effectively said, we're making a game, it's called Ivy Road. We can't tell you anything about it. So we're going to drink cups of tea from little teacups, and we're going to have a guy who makes music in Minecraft play some of his score for the game whilst we drink tea, because we can't tell you about it. But do you know what? The Stanley Parable was weird enough that I still liked it. I was still digging the vibe they were putting out.
I get what you mean. It's got that that not nonsensical, but that sort of like irreverent sense of humor.
Yes.
Where like Chris in the video, like the man is drawing cards to ask to the female dev who's part of this team, and she worked on
is this like all
Gone
like
Home and Tacoma.
IRL?
Yeah, this is live action.
Okay.
So basically, the dude who made Stanley Parable with the Beginner's Guide, and one of the chicks who worked on Gone Home and Tacoma, and the dude who made the music for Minecraft have made a game studio between the three of them. But like as Jonesy said, they're sitting there live action, pouring tea and drinking tea, and the guy is like taking cards and asking her questions. And like the first question was, "You say you're a gamer. Well, if you're a gamer, name 10,000 video games." And her response is Final Fantasy 1 through 10,000. And he's like,
nice.
Yes, I accept that.
That's a great answer.
Fair answer. But is that kind of like shtick? I don't know.
it's funny, isn't it? Because if something like that had to happen at, let's say, a state of play, where some people are like, we've made a studio, and then we make fun of it because it's like fucking Only Fools and Horses or some shit. But because it's like all indie and artsy, like, I could dig this.
Oh no, Chris. I should point out they did cut away from the tea drinking for a photo montage where they stood on an escalator and showed off, showed the logo of their studio on their shirts. What were they fucking called?
But do you know what? Fucking
what were they?
Radical boys.
They should be called that.
What were they
the
fucking
Radical
called?
Boys. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I can't remember. Hold on. My griping about a few, not the majority, indie games and how they sometimes aren't that gamey. Shouldn't take away from the fact that indie games are fantastic, and I am a big fan of indie games. So I'm really glad that Annapurna put together actually a pretty cool little interactive. I was just being a bit salty when I messaged Jamie and said that it was half of it was trash. But they also announced the Outer Wilds expansion called Echoes of the Eye, which is out September 28th. And you guys played some Outer Wilds for a live stream that we had.
Only person was Jamie. It was Jamie and Steph.
Oh, sorry, my bad. It was Jamie who played with Steph.
I never played that game. Yeah. So, Jamie, you're going to be all over this, yeah?
No, because, well, again, that was one of the worst live streams we ever did. Steph and I, this sounds, I'm going to call myself out here, but like, if we are not in this game to humiliate ourselves, then what are we in this game for? When you like watch something or see something or hear something, or in this case, play something before it's critically acclaimed, and then you kind of don't prepare yourself to play something good, so you kind of dismiss it and you don't take it seriously, and then you realize afterwards, oh, people like that. It's like, imagine watching The Godfather in a vacuum and not knowing it was meant to be good, so you're like taking the piss out of their voices and being like, everything this guy says, and then you come out afterwards, it's like, oh yeah, it's the greatest film of all time.
But to be fair to you guys, though, when you're streaming, especially those ATG streams, we never paid attention to anything that the games were telling us. So
no,
it's like,
that's the thing.
And a game like that is you setting yourself up for failure.
We didn't know. We didn't realize there was a time loop. We didn't realize what was happening when we were dying. Like, we didn't read any of the tutorials. We weren't following the story. We weren't reading the text on screen. We were flying around and like, we're like, what's this weird game where what happens if you fly into the sun? Why is this big weird fish? But then I went back to the Outer Wilds and I still didn't get it. It's one of my biggest like regrets that I just never clicked with that game, because the people who had great times with it had really great times with it.
And now there's an expansion.
Now there's an expansion, and people, I can tell you, watching Twitch chat through the entirety of the showcase, this was like the number one thing that people who were watching the showcase wanted. So GTA 6 and Among Us 2 and so on and so forth had now been replaced with the Outer Wilds, which was almost refreshing to see.
Fair enough, yeah.
But yeah, it was an okay showcase. Like, I believe what I said earlier. Like, Annapurna clearly have an eye for cool things. Then the hit rate isn't 100%, and it's a shame that sometimes you can kind of see from a mile away like what's not going to land. But yeah, there are some there were cool things here with cool ideas.
Nice.
Well, I think that,
and there was some trash as well.
There was some trash.
7 out of 10, not enough fail states.
Yeah, there were some games that weren't games. They were DVDs, but actually Blu-rays.
I haven't played them time yet, so you can't say that, Chris. That's really unfair. Until we've time to see how much of a percent of them are playable, we can't possibly know if they're games or if they're movies. So, but with that, thank you very much for joining me this week, everybody who's listening. Thank you very much for joining me, you two who are sitting right here talking to me about games. Woohoo!
No, thank you, Jonesy.
You can reach out to us or YouTube or Twitter at SuperShow Pod. We are on patreon.com/SuperShow. If you would like to join our Patreon, you can join our Discord for as little as $2, and you can get on there and chat to us. And if you do $5, you can watch some of that cool-ass content that I told you about at the beginning of the show. And don't forget that on Sunday, we'll be putting out the very first episode of Known Murderer. You do not want to miss it. It's going to be big. We are also available on podcasting platforms, major and minor, like Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and all the other ones that I can't even remember. The only thing left to do is to ask you... do you know what? I'm not going to ask you. I'm going to tell everyone what they should put in the comments down below to let us know that they made it to this point. I would like you to put in the comments down below what percentage of a game you need to play for it to be a game. and not.
And what do you call it
be
when
a
it's not a
movie.
game? That's the other thing.
And then what do you call it? Because it's not. It can't be a film. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's a dog.
Like they called themselves Telltale Games, but they clearly need to reconsider because they don't make games.
So, yeah.
But what do they make?
Put the percentage. How much of a game do you need to be in control of the playable bits? Drop your percentage down below.
I'd also like to
Drop
announce
your
I'm gonna-
percentage. That's the code word. Drop your percentage.
Drop your percentage down
Also
below.
happy to announce that I'm creating and founding a new studio this afternoon. We're called Telltale Experiences.
I like it. A telltale experience. It's good. It's more descriptive.
Yeah. Well, you know what? 49%. We're honest.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you next time. Bye.
See ya.